Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C Certified Brewhead.
And I am Nathan from Nathan Does Beer.
And welcome to episode 192 of Beer Not Shit Podcast Adjunct series. We're nearly at 200, eh? I hadn't really thought about that.
Nearly at 200. Yeah, it's not far.
Not 200 overall, obviously. We'd be like closer to 400, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
This series,
since this series started.
Yeah, all the remote pods. That's kind of wild. And then the other series, I guess. Wow. It's climbing up. It's a beautiful thing. Nate, Ontario beer.
Yes, indeed.
Kitchener beer tonight.
Yes, indeed. Which is a great area for beer, one that we don't talk about often enough.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I was just thinking, how many pods have we done with either breweries or bars or anything like that from the region?
Only a small handful. I mean, we had Mark from Princess Cafe on last time, which is like, so he was repping the scene,
yes.
For sure.
We had Counterpoint.
And, yep, we've had Counterpoint on.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that is it.
And of course, the guest that we have today is, or this evening, is the repeat guest now. So we're bringing him back, which is awesome. Been looking forward to this. I was just up there for the first time. I want to say like 3 weeks ago, which we're going to touch on, and got to see the brewery and meet in person and hang out. And it was very, very cool to see the operations and how everything goes down, because Kitchener is I feel like it's a really tight knit scene out there, and I feel like
it is.
This is a brewery that is really important to the scene out there. I think people really gravitate to this gentleman and to the brewery, and it's really cool to see. So we're excited to catch back up and see what's been happening since the last time we had him on, which was October 2022. This is a couple of years. So
yep,
excuse me. With that, let me switch this up. All right, let's make this as smooth as I can. All right, guys, please welcome Rob from Short Finger in the building.
Yeah.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Uncle Rob.
Thanks for having me back.
Mate, it's a pleasure. It's sorry it wasn't sooner.
I just assumed you didn't like me anymore. I was like, that was really bomb, that last one. So here we are.
You know what, Rob? That's a fair assumption, but
yep,
it is untrue and unfounded. Dude, great to see you, man. Thank you for taking the time to hang out, and we've got a real fun lineup of beers tonight. A nice eclectic range of beers that we're going to do in a super fun order, because why not, right? Why just be standard? We out here. It's a crazy time to be alive. Let's fucking go.
That's right.
Here for it. Beautiful.
Eclectic is good. That's what Short Finger, I think, overall, eclectic.
Yeah. I like that. Eclectic is good. That could even be a nice little episode.
Yeah, we might have had that one right off the rip.
Yeah, there. I love that. We're gonna keep writing them down, because Rob, I feel like you're gonna be dropping zingers on us tonight, mate.
No problem.
I love it.
No pressure.
Yeah. No, that was it.
There's pressure.
I'm done already. We're like,
you're fresh out now.
It's over.
I'm gonna take a nap.
Feel free if we need to.
Yeah.
Well, I got a little something to keep you awake. Shall we get into the first beer?
Let's do it.
Well, I thought I was like hiding in here. I really wasn't. We are getting into Lil Sippy, a low ABV sour, mixed firm sour, also a collab with Escarpment yeast.
Yeah, and it is can conditioned and fairly high carbs, so just fair warn on that open.
Yep, I had a tiny bit of spray, but it all missed my keyboard, so we're all good.
Yep,
that's all you want. Is that so? Tell us about this one, brother.
So this beer, I can't even remember when I had Richard down at the brewery to do this, because it uses his house culture, which he sends out to a few spots rather sparingly. So I'm always happy when I get to play with his stuff. I think it was last February when it actually was brewed. But you good? You spill everywhere?
I just got a little on my hands. It's not that bad at all. I was trying to avoid touching the camera with it, but could you pass me yeah. Thank you. Tiffany's here. Heard me. Love to see that. Thank you so much. Can you get me a can of sparkling water as well? Thank you. Sorry, Rob.
It is all good.
Yeah. Okay, so he came down last February, so February 2024.
Yeah, and it was 6 months in primary fermentation before this was even packaged, and then we did kind of a quick release on it with our summer short can event in August, because that was like a huge collab drop for us. I think it was like 8 collabs, 8 or 9, something like that. And so we kind of tucked this one in and then pulled it back. That's kind of the beauty of the mixed fermentation stuff. I can always let it sit and sort of develop a little bit more. And with Richard's culture in particular, because it's a blend of I think it was Wild Thing as the base, like fermentation, and then a mix of his bugs, which he's been maintaining now for years. And it is, it's a beautiful beer, 3.5%, super bubbly, effervescent. The nose is super funky. There's a light tartness in there. Like it is everything you want a funky mix ferment saison to be.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Boys, cheers. Great to see you, Rob.
Cheers.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. The nose is like, for some reason, sending me straight back to Half Hours on Earth.
Yeah. I mean, we get compared with Half Hours quite a bit, which, I mean, doesn't really surprise me, because he was a little wilder in his combos than I usually tend to be. I'll get out there and like some of the shit we do is kind of weird, but his stuff, I was always like, Kyle, you're fucking going for it, bud. You're really doing it. All right.
That's so Canadian. Yeah. He went hard, and I love that's actually something we should talk about as well tonight. Is the collab, the Redactor that came out last year as well.
Yeah,
we should definitely talk about that, because that's a fun one. But
it's on tap at Arabella, which we'll bring up too. And so I just had a taste of it again on Saturday when I was there for Pulp. Showed up at Pulp and then drank my ridiculous sour beer instead. Now I drank some Pulp too.
I hope so. Yes. Okay. So this was this is like super peachy. I'm loving the peach vibes in this, and it's like like the can. I love smelling the can. Like it's totally got it's like beautiful like mixed firm funk thing going on.
Yep. A little bit of hay in there, kind of getting the sweet tart notes. I think there's some of this still at the brewery for sale. But we're down to the last 4 packs, if there's any left from last week. And I haven't really been in the tasting room since we got just hammered last weekend. So we'll see. That's tomorrow's problem. Tomorrow I got to go in there and see if we have any beer to sell.
If not, I guess you'll figure that out.
Whatever. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, this is this is gonna fly down. This is so good. Like I was just saying off air, like I had this the other night, like a week or two ago, and at the end of a relatively large Saturday night session, and it's such a I really feel like these type of beers are really uncommon as far as that 3 to 4%, but still incredibly flavorful. That's like that mixed firm thing going on where it's not too over the top. It's like funky and a little bit sour and tart, but extraordinarily balanced whilst remaining complex and you can just crush it and not think about it, or you can sit there and be like, oh yeah, I'm getting peach, I'm getting nectarine,
Yeah.
It's wicked.
And it's not too it's not too bold in flavor either, kind of like you're saying. It's definitely got a lot of flavor. It's complex, but it is pretty restrained. And with its high effervescence, this is something that if you were eating something kind of fatty, like this would go really, really well with it to cut through the fat.
Right through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a nice combo with it.
Yeah, this would actually be a really, really nice pairing for something like that. Like if you're eating a fatty cheese or even fatty meats or anything like that, this would go perfect with that.
A pork belly taco or some shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good.
Ooh, make me hungry. Yeah, that's dope.
I would do it with some lamb or something where you got that it's a little more earthiness in there, plus but I just love lamb. So I always want to eat lamb. It has nothing to do with the beer, actually.
Lamb is amazing. Lamb is fun. I just had lamb for dinner, actually.
Yeah, I mean the 3.5 or what is it, 3
I think I'm at 3.9. I thought I saw
3.9?
3.9,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is the thing with these beer. Like, I think it was supposed to be 3.5 originally, but with the mixed fermentation, it eats everything and dries everything out. So like it's like it doesn't take much, and it'll just drop a few more points than you think. And like this is probably a pretty close to like 0 as you're gonna get on like
Play-Doh.
residual sugars left over in a beer,
Mm.
which I love. I am not. I'm not a sweet beer guy. If you've had any of my beers, you will probably realize that it's not very often where we put anything out that's super sweet, and it's why I've always gravitated to these and the low ABV. I mean, we have a shirt, but it's like sleeveless. It's like I call them mantinis. It's like a tank top, but it's like low ABV life, and it's just like a skeleton hand holding the can. And I love low ABV beers, like all the time. I like a 3.5 to 4. That's beautiful. Like I've got a little Lush in tank right now coming out next week. It's 4%, little pale ale, little IPA, whatever you want to call it. And it'll probably be the beer that I drink the most of, just because I'm like, yeah, I can crush a few of these. Beautiful, flavorful, and doesn't weigh me down.
I like that. You remind me of Simon from L'Espace Public in Montreal, who's just like a 4% sour crusher. I think that's it's like a lifestyle for sure. Like that shirt is perfect. Like for that, I think there's like a bunch of, you either kind of like that vibe, or I noticed a lot of people are like, I know one dude who only drinks double IPAs and kind of like barley wines and stouts, like imperial stuff. I'm like, you're crazy.
It's wild.
It's pretty insane. I had to try and convince him to drink lagers. Like I was like, dude, take this and fucking drink it. And I don't think it was.
Yeah,
it'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, each their own, right? Like I think that's the beauty of beer. And that being said, like this is not a popular beer in terms of sales. I make a lot of beers and styles, and the low ABVs are coming around, but it's not like this shit is flying off the shelf.
Is that because it's mixed firm?
I think it's a mixed firm, the low ABV, but I have not trained. That's not the right word, because that sounds weird when I say I've trained my customers. I mean, it's more of a like my customers are used to lower ABV or used to the funky stuff, and we've kind of like fostered that, I guess. And so often when we have really big beers on tap or in the tasting room, they're the slowest moving, because a lot of people who come in for the low ABV beers, but like they definitely don't fly off the shelf. They do better. They do well on tap. On tap, sense. People come in for a few pints. If you're drinking a 3.5% beer and maybe like a 6%, like kind of makes it easier, especially if you got to drive or something like that. You don't want to have too many beers in you.
Totally. Yeah. I found that's interesting that you're saying all this. I remember I did a pod with a beer store in Quebec in like 2018 in Montreal, and that was the first time they brought out everything. They had 4 beers all under 5%. Started at 5, we just kept going down until I think we got to non-alc. But like real low ABV stuff was big then. I was like, what is this? This is crazy. Who's drinking this? And I felt like that's now like become a lot more. That was like, what's that, 7 years ago? Like I feel like it's been normalized a lot more, particularly in Ontario. I noticed Ontario was a little slower to adapt to the low ABV and non-alc stuff in comparison to Quebec. So I wonder if it's like a cultural thing. Aside from the mixed firm thing, because that's a whole other conversation. But you know what I mean? The low ABV stuff is
it's another layer on the like harder for people to get behind. But like when we first started releasing Catherine the Mild, which is the only English beer I do. It's just a straight up dark mild that I make for my wife, Kat, because she loves the style. And Paul Dickey used to make, when he was doing Cheshire Valley, he used to make Cheshire Valley Mildly Amusing, I think it was called, and it was a dark mild, and it was beautiful. Lovely beer, great pub beer. So essentially I recreated this after that one. But when we first started doing it in Kitchener, like I couldn't get a bar to take it on. I think Arabella might have, but they're pretty good about balancing their board and putting different styles on. But like nobody was interested. They're like, I'm gonna put a 3.5% beer on my board. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, that it's not a bad thing to have a lower ABV on. You can still charge pretty much the same amount as you would for your pint, and people can easily have two of that instead of two double IPAs.
Yeah.
Or they'd probably go two of those instead of one double IPA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
That's
I
twice
mean,
the
in
money
my
for
head,
them.
I was always like, I don't know, like, here's how I see it. But, like, they're like, people just aren't going to buy it. And I think that's changed 100%. But
when was this? When did you originally start trying to sell these low ABV stuff?
2019.
Okay.
Like,
So ahead of the game for Ontario.
Like, we opened up in the summer of 2018 as just a bottle shop that you had to ask because it was like tucked in behind a homebrew shop. And then the January of 2019 is when we opened up our tasting room, and we actually launched with the third Pulp release with Barncat that year. I think that was the third time we did it, was when we finally opened up our tasting room, and that's kind of when we moved into having not just sour beer too. Because when we first opened, I only had sour beer. It was just barrel-aged mixed ferment sour beer. And Kitchener was like, what the fuck is going on with this place? People were really thrown off.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that, I know we might have covered it in the last one, but it just got me curious again. The homebrew side of stuff is done, right?
Yeah, the homebrew. Yeah. I just posted on my story today. I'm sure you have a million stories, but like I won again for best homebrew shop in the area. I haven't run a homebrew shop in 2 years, and I won the like Kitchener record, like best homebrew shop. I had like the diamond level, the like higher than gold on diamonds. It was like, this is ridiculous. So, but I mean,
have you told them? Have you got guys? Like,
I'm not gonna. I'll take the award every year. I'll just see. Yeah, sure, give it to me. But I mean, the homebrew shop was really sweet. It's too bad that industry fell to shit. And I mean, homebrewers are cheap. They're so goddamn cheap. So getting them to spend money is hard, and there's a reason. Not all of them. That's a generalization there, but like it was a tough go. But when it was bumping, and it was a really nice shop. And I mean, we were Canadian Homebrew Shop of the Year in 2020, and then I closed in 2021. Like, like it kind of like that wave of COVID, and then just it was like, I can't afford to keep this going. We have to make some hard calls here, and it's a bummer. Real bummer. Yeah. But I mean, I always said from the get-go, I said life is short, homebrew. I was never planning on having the homebrew shop for all that long. It was keeping me busy while I was setting up the brewery. And I was just telling people from the get-go of like, this is going to be here until it's not. And I'm not going to do this the whole time. Like once I get the brewery going, I'm going to transition to brewery. And like financially, it made sense to do so. So like, that's what we did. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess
it's a lot. Running...
No, go on, please. No.
Running multiple businesses in one business was hard. They're linked, but they weren't as linked as I was hoping. I thought the home brewers would be the more experimental craft beer drinkers. That's not necessarily the case. There are some who are, but a lot of them are just cheap and want to make dirt cheap beer.
That's what I was going to say.
Whatever.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah.
It's on brand for them.
Yeah, it's not. And again, that's not everyone, but like I did find a good chunk of them that was a big part of it. And then there's a bunch of them who wanted to try different things and experimental, and so much passion in beer, like tons and tons of passion that was like awesome to be around. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of good in the homebrew community too. I just heard, and I don't know if this is true, I think Toronto Brewing's closing.
The main, I know they closed their Geary, the second location.
Like but I heard someone say the other. So like more on the homebrew side of things, of like the industry was going weird already. And if Toronto Brewing can't make it go, I'm sure Toronto's expensive to be in. But I had heard that, and I don't know if that's true. My apologies if that's not true, and I'm just spreading vicious lies about places here. Yeah.
They haven't posted anything about it on their social.
Yeah. It was just somebody mentioned to me like this weekend. So
interesting. Okay. So pub 3 days ago, a pub found inside a Toronto brewery. Okay, no, that's different. Okay. We can look that up, and maybe we can get confirmation for sure if that is. But
so I probably shouldn't have said that. I probably should have just. Okay. I realized I was like, oh, that may be preemptive, and not true. Yeah,
it's in this it sucks to say, but I guess in this climate, like who knows, right? Like anything could happen to anyone at any given time, which is a huge shame. But yeah, I was gonna ask that. I was gonna like. Obviously, when we were on the pod, we would speak to people. I would say, I don't know about a percentage, but probably 60 to 70% of people who own a brewery started as home brewers, I would say.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? 60, 70-ish?
That sounds about right.
And I'm making that number up, of just people we speak to. And I would hazard a guess that those people, and they always say that, oh, I just wanted to make cheap beer when I was in university. Like basically every time they say that. Yep. So that's how in my head, like when I first started homebrewing in 2011, we did it for a couple of years. My friend Scott and I, it wasn't because of cheap beer. We just wanted to try and make it to learn more about it. It wasn't like trying to be cheap about it, but I can understand that being the motivation. And I would also imagine that the more experimental folks that you mentioned are probably some of them would have gone on to start breweries, would be my guess.
Yeah. With the homebrew shop, we had a whole slew of people who were starting breweries. Graham from Counterpoint used to come in. Him and his partner who left pretty early on in that process were brewing all the time, and like came and like pick my brain, you know, kind of thing. And like Schooner Street, those guys were in before. These probably haven't heard of them. They're pretty small, but like if you were starting a brewery in the area, you were coming into the homebrew shop and you were homebrewing, and like some of these guys bought all their shit through us, and that changed at the end. Like we started seeing less and less people coming in to be like, oh, I'm gonna you know, like I'm gonna figure this out and start my own brewery.
Right.
Yeah. It was kind of an interesting pulse of the industry, I think, you know, in a way that a lot of breweries don't think about. But it was definitely like, you could tell how hot it was for a while in terms of how many people were in it, thinking about getting into brew and starting their own brewery and stuff like that. It was, you know, it's kind of fun.
That's fascinating that you noticed that kind of tail off. Like people were saying that they were going to start a brewery. I imagine that is, like you said, towards the end, so probably 2020.
As the home, and I mean, the home brewing was dying, but then the industry started to significantly change and just didn't bounce back from COVID.
That. Right. Yeah. Why do you think people aren't as interested in home brewing now?
I think there's a lot of beer out there now, and people probably realized. Like, I spent a lot of time, especially before the brewery was going, troubleshooting beer and trying to get them brewing good beer.
For people or for yourself?
For people. No, for people. Right. Like, I was like adamant that I was like, I will help you. If I'm in here, you bring in your home brew. I will sit here, I'll drink it, and I will tell you what's wrong with it. And I was pretty like blunt about it. I'm not gonna like
Like sugar.
Right here, you want to know what's wrong with it? I'll tell you. And there's a lot of bad homebrew. Like, but there's some of the best beer I've had is homebrew too, which is crazy. So I mean, it's kind of the same as breweries when it comes down to it. There's a lot of shit beer. There's a lot of mediocre beer, and then there's some really, really good beer too. But yeah, I think homebrewers. It's too bad that kind of petered out. It was a fun industry, that's for sure. And yeah, like I said, some of the best beer I've had.
Interesting.
Homebrewers. Some of the worst fucking beer I've like. We used to do
like
a lot of competitions.
Yeah.
And after the competition, my one buddy used to live in my basement. We'd have all these bottles left over. So, there'd be 120 entries or whatever. And all of the good beer is now gone after the competition. And everybody had to submit too. So if there was a second bottle, there's going to be mediocre beer and then a lot of terrible beer. And we used to do this thing where it was called the homebrew game. And you would have to pick a random bottle because it was like, there's so much beer. I feel bad just pouring it down the drain. Eventually I got to the point where I would just do it. But we'd just crack a bottle, and then whatever bottle you picked, you had to drink at least an ounce of it. And it was sometimes it was fucking painful. It was so bad. And we just sit around to do this because what else are we gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But the hangover
not
afterwards was it was on a different scale. I think it's one of the worst hangovers. After the one night we did that, I was like, I think I'm done. I don't think I'm gonna do that again. It was funny. The joke is over now.
Do you think that they knew that those homebrews were shit? We're just talking about homebrew competitions with bad beer. Nate, do you think that why would you submit an objectively terrible beer? Maybe they actually thought it was good.
So you are getting full feedback sheets, right? So if you're trying to figure out well, I made this beer and I don't know what's going on, you can get some hopefully good feedback depending on the judges. But that's kind of, most people will put it in. I think want to put it in as I made a good beer, but
rather than be I don't know if it's good, I'm going to submit to a competition. That's just such a strange thing to do. Yeah. I judged one time in Prince Edward County. They had this thing called the Fermentation Festival where we did a live panel, which actually had Richard from Escarpment on, and Justin from Matron, and a couple other folks I don't recall. And after we did that, we had to judge a homebrew competition. Fuck, that was rough. Yeah, it was. There was if it was one that was kind of a 3 out of 10, you're that's winning. That's the one. That's getting it, because everything else sucks so bad.
There it is. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
We had some excellent homebrews. We had some fucking terrible too, but excellent.
Interesting. So I think it was because you guys were a homebrew store, you got and this was just a random festival where there wasn't that many entries. I'm 20 or something, not 100 and plus or whatever. So perhaps because you guys were the guys in the area, the store in the area that people went to, that would attract any kind of home brewer. Because I feel it's a pretty niche community. That's if there's something going on, they're all talking about this competition, we're all entering it. Type thing. Yeah.
I don't know. I think on the homebrew side, we were really fostering the sour community because that's what I was doing. So a lot of the really good beers that I ended up getting in were in the mixed fermentation side of things. We had some also Bebo from Third Moon won my hop IPA challenge that I did with Great Lakes. Or was he runner up?
No, he won it. I tagged him in the photo the other day because I got hold of it. And it was under Steve Piloto. That was the collab.
Exactly. It was actual name.
His actual name. Because I used to call him Steve for a while. Then he's like, only you and my mum call me Steve. Then I stopped. But yeah, it was a hazy IPA, which was not hazy. It was as hazy as Lil Sippy was.
Right. So, but yeah, he won, and then he gave me shit years later because like, I think it was saying how we met, and then he was like, "You motherfucker, I like won one of your competitions, and you met me there." And I was like, "Did I? Did that really happen?" Like, anyways,
That's awesome. So he won your competition, and the prize was to do a beer with Great Lakes.
with Great Lakes, yeah.
That's cool. I
Gotcha.
ask him about that. That's actually really that's fun. That's a fun like full circle thing. And
I mean, like, I met Jeremy from Barncat at a homebrew get together and like homebrew share when I first moved to the area, and that's kind of like how I got linked up with him, and that's the only reason Pulp ended up being a thing between the two of us, because I met him through homebrew.
right. That might be a good segue. How do you guys feel about getting to the next beer, and then we can get into the Pulp combo?
Let's do it.
Rob's taking us on a bit of a guided tour, something fun with this. What are we thinking, brother?
Well, why don't we could do the True Believer next?
Here for it.
Yeah, we could do the True Believer. You guys have Lando, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, cool.
So
I was trying to remember which I really was like, I can't remember exactly what beers I gave you guys.
we have Lando A1.
Yep.
The big bottle one. Noble Rot.
Oh, I didn't bring that one home because I don't want to drink 750 mils.
Fair enough. And we have Fresh Hell and one more, which didn't have the name on it that we talked about.
Oh, yeah. Then we can talk about my labels and how bad I am at it. But I like to do Don't even put the name on it. True Believer. Names.
True Believer. So I already had this with you in the brewery on tap for the first time when it came by. It was fantastic. And this is a 5.2% hazy pale ale.
Yep.
Bloody real. And what's the hops in this one?
So this one's Citra Mosaic.
Citra Mosaic.
So every once in a while we're throwing in some Simcoe, but on this one it's straight Simcoe, or sorry, Citra Mosaic. And it's all Citra in the nose. Lots of just grapefruit.
Oh, yeah.
This is my go-to beer and 100% our most popular beer.
Okay.
I get shit from our regulars to not have this on tap, which is always bums me out because I'm like, you guys, you say you love Lando, but you all come back for the True Believer.
So this one is
with me because
this is a year rounder.
Yeah, it's almost always on, but that's like depending on what other hoppy beers I'm kicking through, because I'm very particular about not overloading the hop board. We'll never have more than 2 at any one time. Just I have shied away from day one being like, we're a hazy brewer. I always wanted to be a mixed fermentation brewery because I felt like there was a whole bunch of hazy breweries out there and didn't necessarily need another one.
But you do regularly. Yeah, you still do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
When we first connected, we were talking about this when we hung out, but you sent a bunch of beer and I had one night, which I really enjoyed, where I just drank like 5 or 6 short finger beers and it was wicked. And a bunch of them were hazy IPA, like pale ales or IPAs. Not this one, but it was like, I was like, oh, wow, this is like, it's such I feel like you got a really interesting approach.
So, I mean, I love this beer. I love Lando, like I said. Like, I will drink a Lando and then I will switch to True Believer. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
And I'll drink 2 or 3 True Believer after, because it's just super crushable, flavorful, citrusy. Again, it's not, I wouldn't call this a dry beer, but it is not a sweet hoppy beer.
It certainly isn't.
Which I find makes it more drinkable and balances out compared to a lot of ones. But like, again, personal preference on that. But this is exactly, True Believer is my favorite hoppy beer that we make. 100%. Okay. That's why we do it all the time. And it's a Bouncing Souls reference. And I'm a dirty punk kid, and I love the Bouncing Souls. So, New Jersey punk rock.
That's right. Okay. Respect. I
Great.
love that. The head on this is a beaut. It's so like sort of pillowy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
meringue.
Yeah.
Wicked tropical notes. It's got a lot of like grapefruit zest. It's like a little bit of like zesty, pithy bitterness, or like that touch of pine in there. Tons of tropical fruit. 5.2, I think it was.
5.2%.
5.2.
Yep. With this one, it's mixed of Canadian wheat and then oat malts, which is pretty standard for our hoppy stuff, and then Canadian churro, obviously. But I do find that kind of mix of the wheat and oat really allows for like a pillowy head when it's poured properly. I kind of screwed my pour up apparently, but what you gonna do?
Mine definitely got pillowy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those. If you're drinking at in the tasting room, all of our beers, if I'm behind the bar, I'm always trying to muffin top, pillowy head every single pour in there, and that's not just our saisons. I try to do it with all of the hoppy stuff too. The lager, I can't quite hit it the same way. I find it's like I'm always working on trying to get the lager dialed in exactly where I want it. But I mean, I think we do a very large range of styles of beer for how big of a brewery we are and what I'm trying to do. So I give myself a little grace here and there.
I feel you, bro. This is the banger, and this one is this year round? Like people can get this anytime they come in?
No. Nothing is really year round, but it's as close as you'll get.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like I was kind of saying earlier, I try not to load up our hoppy stuff in terms of I've been to breweries where you go in and it's like, oh, you've got 10 IPAs on. Sweet. And like usually they're very good and like whatnot, but I have always like I prefer to be known as a bit more of a mixed fermentation brewery that also does hazies than a hazy brewery. So I've always tried to steer somewhat into a bit more balance on my board. So we might have a pale ale and an IPA on. Might.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's it. Like often there's only one hazy beer on the board. It's like lager, pale ale, and then some random, like right now it's like Soul for Sale, like a mint no, it's a Baltic Porter, and then 3 to 4 sour beers. I've really tried to focus on like this is where we sit. And it's a hard sell for people. It's not like the most popular, especially after that Pulp release I did. I'm like, well, maybe I should fucking pull my head out of my ass and start making beers that sell a little quicker. But I got too many ideals and get in my own head.
Well, if that doesn't feel right for you, then you know, stick with what does feel right.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about Pulp. So maybe explain the history of it, because we might have talked about it on either the pod that you and I did a couple of years ago, or Nate and I had Jeremy on in 2023, I believe.
I think you talked with Jeremy about it. I remember listening to it. I don't think we discussed it.
Okay, let's get your side. Maybe just pretend it hasn't been talked about for those who don't know what it is, because I feel like it's probably important to reiterate just for the history of the beer, and that will explain why it flew out the door.
Can I start with that? I'm terrible with years, so I'm just gonna guess it was
just make it up.
I think it was 2017. That sounds about right to me. When we did the first Pulp collab with Barncat at Barncat, and this was, I think it was the first beer that ever went out as a short finger beer, but it was like in quotations because it was Barncat short finger. And it was me, my wife Kat, I think my roommate Tim came over, a bunch of random guys from Barncat, Jeremy and Matt, like on New Year's Day, January 1st, go to Barncat and just start zesting for hours and fucking hours, just nonstop zesting. And we'd never really done anything of our Clementine double IPA. And I think we spent 7 hours on New Year's Day, and I was hungover as all get out because it was New Year's. And
of course.
I had been up till probably 5 in the morning or whatever, and then was like,
as one does.
I did agree that I would do this on this day because Jeremy was always a little... He was a funny dude, always was. I love him. I consider him a good friend and a good friend in beer. But I was like, man, you picked this day to do this? Why did I agree to this? But we got it all done. It was good. And that first Pulp release happened at Arabella Park. It was, and I think it's the fastest keg they've ever poured. And it was crazy. It was one of those things where you go into the bar and it is packed. Like, so full of people. And it was like 7 o'clock, we're starting this thing, and we won't pour a drop of liquid before it. And as 7 o'clock hit, like, we did like a big cheers and did it. And then they were like, we didn't stop pouring until that keg was empty. It was just like full faucet open. Everybody who was there just wanted to drink this beer. And that 30-liter keg was gone in like 42 minutes or something like that, which is like, you just didn't stop pouring it. Like, which is pretty good. And that was one of the times, that was where it was like, okay, we got something here. This community can respond and be involved. And like, it was definitely one of those high points of like, feeling like we're doing something in the community, but also in the industry of like making a mark. And I think the collab did. I think it definitely made a mark. And people still talk about it and ask for it. And it's that funny thing of like Barncat got all of the like credit, I guess would be which I was always like, I wasn't even a brewery at the time. I was just like, yeah, let's do this thing. Like, and like worked it out with Jeremy. But like, I don't know. It's one of those things I'm like, yeah, I can't believe people still care so much. Like we released it on Saturday at 1 o'clock in the brewery. And cans were sold out by 2:30, and draft was gone by 4:30, and then you had to go to Arabella at 6 for the keg tapping there. I don't know how quickly they sold out there, but I can't drink double IPAs all day. So like, I had a double IPA at Short Finger, did my thing, like rounds, all that, worked all day, and then went to Arabella and was like, oh, I got to drink another double IPA now? Holy shit. You guys are gonna kill me. I mean, my own scheduling is going to kill me. But it was fun. And like, people showed up again. It wasn't the same as that first one. But it was really good at like, I was blown away and it felt good. Like, cause we need more feel good. Like the industry has been a rough go, and like, it's been stressful. Not everything lands, and just doesn't feel like people care much anymore. So it was nice to kind of have that sort of pickup. And it was nice. And I do miss having Barncat around. It would be... I didn't even talk to them about it this time because it was like, I'm not bugging you, Jeremy. You don't need to come drop zest in the boil this year. And the other thing, I wasn't planning on doing it. Over the holidays, I was cleaning out labels and found a roll of Pulp labels that I didn't know I had, and was just like, well, I guess we better use these labels. So I hadn't been planning on doing it because I hadn't talked to the Barncat guys. They're not really a brewery anymore, but respect and whatnot. And I was just like, fuck it. They don't care. Like, not in a like negative way, but just like, they're not going to give a shit. Like, yeah, do it. Like, get people into it. I think like is where their heads are going to be at on it. Like, if people are into it, then go for it. Yeah. They're not going to be worried about it. So, and the response on it, I was like, well, I wasn't really planning on doing it again. I was going to leave it with Barncat as being like, it's part of our Speaker for the Dead series, which is homage to dead breweries, essentially. We've done half hours and whatnot, but I might do it again just because it was like, shit, people really wanted that beer. But I mean, next year anyway, so not anytime soon. Yeah.
Gotcha. And that was, so it was done the first time at Barncat, and was this the second time it's done, or it was done annually? It was done annually.
We did it 5 times with Barncat, and every year Matt would say, I don't want to do it. I fucking don't want to zest. I don't want to zest. And Jeremy didn't want to do it. So we did it for 5 years with all of us. The third year, we did a sour version of it as we opened our tasting room as a variation with it, which was kind of funny. I really liked it, but like Hazy Boys, I feel like
not so much.
Into that. Yeah. We're like, what the fuck did you do to my beer? So
it checks out.
Yeah. I do like to throw curveballs. Let's be honest. I'm a big curveball guy. So yeah, they don't come around short finger that often. They showed up this past weekend, and yeah, we did it 5 times. One year we released at Willibald, second year, which was a pretty good one. We got a whole bus like that left short finger and bust out to Air, which is like 30 minutes away from here. It was fun. Then we did short finger, and then we went back to Arabella, and I can't remember what we did on the 5th year. But it's always been like a big beer thing in the area, so it's kind of nice to keep it going. And last year, Jeremy came in and we brewed it together, which was
that's fun.
Which was fun because they just shut that summer, and I think he was like, "Oh, I gotta leave for Portugal tomorrow, so like, yeah, if you brew it on this date, like I can come and do it." I was like, "All right, sure, man." Like, he's just been gallivanting, just driving motorcycles. I assume his life's just Portugal, fast cars, fast motorcycles, sexy ladies. I don't know what. Yeah, that's what he's doing now.
Good for him. Yeah. Different life. Total different life.
Yeah. Off the brewery grind.
I respect it, though. I think Matt went on to Sparrow, right?
He is at Sparrow. Yeah.
Which is nice. That at least it kind of lives on to a degree through him. Yeah.
Yeah. They did just reach out to tell me that, or asking about the untapped Pulp, whatever, and I was like, "What? I don't do the untapped thing." And he was like, "I don't think you've like set up a new Pulp." I was like, "Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. Sorry, Greg."
Let me check, because I use Untapped pretty religiously. It's very helpful for me. But if I use Short Finger Pulp, there is a 2024 secret. There's a secret edition. There's 2025. There's Pulp S.
That's the sour one. So it's there.
There's
2020 or 2024.
So someone made a 2025 8.5%.
8.3, whatever.
It's okay. That's what they put down.
Yeah.
I feel like this doesn't have a logo, a label. So that means someone made it.
This is one of those things I'm really not interested in, and so kind of flop on it on the brewery side. There we go. Yeah. That's us.
That's the little bad boy for people. I hadn't seen the label, so it's sick.
Yeah, the label is... I wish that I didn't have just a silver bullet here because everybody bought all the beer and there's none left, because I do like that label quite a bit. I thought it was a very nice throw to the Barncat boys, and all of our shit is
Absolutely.
kind of skeletons now. So
Which is very cool.
yeah,
It's sick, man. I like that you made it live on though. Like I think that because it like I was in Montreal at the time. I only got Barncat. I think Nate got me my first Barncat like not too long after that when they canned. I think it was called the Space. Not there was like a triple IPA. The red can was their first can.
Yeah.
Is that familiar?
Yeah, yeah.
It
What the
does,
fuck was
but
it
I can't
called?
remember which one it was.
Not Eminence, no. Either way, that was the first one, and I remember seeing there was this dude Sid, who probably you know then. He was an Instagrammer, so I knew him through that, and he was
Yeah.
there doing the zesting. So I always saw him
Yes.
post about it, and I was always like, "Fuck, man! Like I need to try this stuff." So Hillary from Pretty Penny, who used to do the hop necklaces, she lived in Cambridge at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, I
she
know.
came up one time and brought. Yeah, I imagine you would know her. Yeah, she brought up a bunch of growlers and some cans and stuff. So I got to try some more of their stuff. But Barncat was always like a, oh man, if only I could get some of this stuff. Being in Montreal, it was always so difficult. So Nate got a bit more because you went to see your mate in
Yeah.
Kitchener. So Nate was able to hook it up occasionally. But
Makes sense.
it was a legendary beer, truly. Like even from there, I knew all about it and never got to try it aside from when I was there a couple of weeks ago from the tank, which I guess it was still relatively early. I think you just dry hopped it
I
that
had
day.
dry hopped it that day, so you were
Yeah.
like, you were.
Gotta-
I mean, that was a heavy dry hop for us. I mean, we're pretty aggressive, but I was like, yep. Oh yeah, I forgot double IPAs. You really put a lot of hops in there. Okay, yeah, here we go. Yeah.
Throwing some dollars.
It was
at
good.
Yeah.
It was good. I did change it up a little bit this year because I added fruit and secondary, with the second dry hop, which was not how the original one went. But I found that fruit and boil doesn't taste the same as fruit and secondary, and a lot of breweries steer clear of it because of the risk of cross contamination. And I live on the edge, baby. So like we just go for it. Yeah, always have. Yeah. And I find the flavor from secondary additions of fruit is far superior than boiled whirlpool, whatever you're gonna do. But personal preference, and I totally get why some people steer clear of it because contamination is extremely scary.
No, that makes sense. Particularly in your brewery when you got all these sour beers too.
My place
all over and above.
is wild. It's a nightmare. My place
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. Really dumb question. What is the zesting process? Like, I don't really know what that is. Is that like peeling the clementines?
No. It's just so I don't have one here because I'm not in the kitchen. But like we have zesters, and it's just this like kind of plain, and it's like the finest thing on your cheese grater. Similar to that. And what you're trying to do is only pull color from the citrus fruits, not white. As soon as you get to like that like white layer that kind of goes all around it,
when you're getting to the pith.
Yeah, you don't want the pith. The pith is just bitter, and that taste goes through. So it's like there's a proper zesting, and when you're doing like 120 pounds of clementines, which are like tiny, right? So they're like 120 pounds of clementines is a lot of clementines. It's not a small amount of clementines, and you just like. But now
and the skin of clementines are pretty thin too.
Oh yeah,
and like floppy.
So you have to
like
be
they don't
very careful with how much you zest off it.
So you're sort of grating it on the finest grater to just get it right at the right
take that
level.
little bit, yeah. And
I've seen like bartenders do that shit. I saw what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're doing it to the whole fruit, the whole
doing the whole thing, trying to get it all.
Huh.
The original, I mean, when we were talking about names, because when we first brewed it, we had these 2 big bags of zest, like giant bags. And I remember Jeremy holding them up, and we were been talking about naming, and I was like, we could call this beer Zesticles. And he did not find that funny at all.
Well, maybe
I
this
still
episode
think
might be
it's a
called
hilarious
Zesticles.
name. I don't think it's a name you want to use, but I still am like, that was a funny name. Come on.
That's gold. I wonder if that could be some merch. You could have some
Yeah,
Pulp
yeah,
merch with
exactly.
on the
Yeah.
back just Zesticles.
Zesticles. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. I wonder if that could be the episode name. I added it on there. We'll
That
see how it
that
goes.
could be the episode name right there.
I love it. I think people will appreciate it. Okay, that's
Yeah.
sick. So it's like very cool that you brought it back. Are you going to do it again in 2026?
I think I probably will, just because it went over so well. Like,
Could you do a larger batch, perhaps?
yeah, like I did just a single batch, and I mean, this is the thing. We sold it real fast, but we have a 4 hectoliter system, right? You were at the brewery.
Okay. Yeah.
We're a small setup. We're not big. So there are things I can do to pump that up a little bit more. I'll be honest, I was like hesitant to do it, and I also didn't know what the response was going to be. And the response was bigger than I expected, which was nice. But I was like, I just with how the industry has been for the last little bit, I was like, I don't know if people care right now. Like, I really am unsure where people's heads are at. And so I was pleasantly surprised. Like I said, I feel like it was like a pretty uplifting, like, okay, like there's still, people still care. Because at times it felt like they don't so much, which has been tough. So it was a step in the right direction. So on that, like, I'm like, yeah, I think I could do it again.
That's
I
good.
like that. It sounds like it was an event, and I feel like that's what beer needs now. Like,
Yeah.
something to look forward to, something that they're excited about. And if that beer, even if it's just the nostalgia, which is not a bad thing, if nostalgia is making people excited about beer and bringing them both to Short Finger and to Arabella, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a net positive, bro. I think that's that's really giving back to the scene and be like, yo, you remember this shit? Like, I'm doing it again for you. And you put a little twist on it. That's beauty as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was this year's. I'm actually pouring it right now.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Was better
Okay.
than the one we did last year with Jeremy. We got a industrial juicer last year, and something about it, I think a lot of the like pith and parts of the fruit got transferred over, and I wasn't happy with the haze of that beer. And we're not known for hazy beer, but given time, we had haze instability with the first pulp that we did last year. This one, I'm much happier. Aroma is way stronger. You get the citrus on it. It's still not super sweet. Like, there's a sweetness to pulp compared to True Believer. I mean, it's a double IPA versus pale ale for sure, but it's not syrupy. Because one of my least favorite things about a lot of double IPAs is how syrupy they taste to me. I know, like, again, subjective in terms of style and what I'm looking for. I like a balance. I like a little bitterness in my beer, and I don't want it to be all that sweet. I don't have a sweet tooth, but I am very happy with this year's batch, and I think like people were just crushing it and loving it at the tasting room this past weekend, which was awesome.
That's sick.
So, yeah.
And the response was the same at Arabella, because when we went, this was, I guess we can transition to the next beer in a second, get into it a bit more. But yeah, after I came by, we went to Arabella and we met with Ben, who I had spoken to years ago. We were supposed to do a live podcast from there with you, actually, before we knew each other, which is hilarious, and didn't work out because it was supposed to be April 2020, and we all know what happened.
Yeah.
But it was cool to meet Ben, and I didn't realize he was one of the owners, which is sick. And immediately it was cool to see you guys figured it out while we were there chatting. You were just like, yo, you want to do a pulp? Yeah. What time 6 o'clock? Can you do that? Yeah. It was just like, it wasn't even a question. It was like from them. It was like,
he had
fuck
texted me like as soon as I kind of put it out there, I think he had texted me pretty quickly after, and I was like,
dude, let's go.
Was like, okay, yeah, we can like do something here, but at this point I was like, I really want to like main draw the brewery. Like you were down at the brewery.
Yes.
We are in a weird location in Kitchener. I call it the asshole of Kitchener. And
nice asshole though.
Yeah, there's some good beer there. So, but it's also a part of town where when I tell people who have lived in Kitchener all their life where it is, they're like, "Oh, I've never been there." I'm like, "You've never been to this part of your town?" Like and that's changing because we have the bike path and all that, and like it is very much changing. But Kitchener was and has been a rough town that is getting less rough sometimes.
Like Hamilton.
But yeah,
Right.
Okay.
yeah. I mean, you're in Hamilton.
Same shit.
Yeah.
Some parts are nice, some parts are like
Exactly.
So it makes me not scared of the States.
Any town. Yeah.
I guess it didn't used to be though. Like I can't speak to Hamilton, but even Canada, like it was something that I only realized lately. Like, sometimes we come to the States over the last decade, say, and you go and be like, whoa, look at these, like, shit's rough here. Like now driving around Hamilton and the sheer volume of garbage flowing across the streets and tents in the parks and all the stuff, I go here and I'm just not even like blinking. It's hilarious. It's like it's gets you used to it. Like, now, because it always used to be America was fucked, and now it's like, okay, I get it.
It's
I know
everywhere.
how to move now.
It's everywhere. Great.
Didn't always, yeah. I want to get into the Arabella Park side, which is as far as that in the States. You guys want to rock the next one?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
You can still keep rocking the Pulp though, because that's a beauty.
Yeah. Which one are you guys pulling out?
Will you tell us? We're
you
following
tell us.
Uncle Rub's.
So do you wanna really take your palate on a roller coaster?
You goddamn
Please,
right.
let's do it.
That's roller coaster.
We're not afraid.
Okay, so why don't we do the one that I have, the Existential Risk, but you don't know which one that is because I didn't put the name on the label.
So that's got to be this one.
Yes, exactly.
Which we only realized when we're in the brewery. You're like, where's the name? I'm like,
oh, I know. I realized it in front of you and was just like,
like, God,
are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I did enjoy it. That was pretty funny, to be honest.
One man show, baby. Don't catch
Here for
everything.
There's lots of words on it, but none of them are existential risk.
None of them are the words you need to know. Yeah.
Amazing.
God damn it.
Dude,
So this one is going to be quite sour, so it's definitely going to be a change up on your palate.
Right on.
So it is a straight up golden sour, and whenever I say it's a golden sour, I mean like we're in like Small Pony, that range of sour, and
that's convenient. I've even got it in my Small Pony glass.
Beautiful.
You
This
knew what was happening, Nate.
2 years and 2 months in peach brandy barrels.
Okay.
Lightly blended, but trying not to touch it. And this is a problem with barrel aging and trying to pull specific flavors out of a beer. You don't want to soften it too much with a blend, so it comes out on the more sour side, but should have tons of peachy notes, kind of like a almost candied peach in there. There's a vanilla, and if you're into sour beer, this beer is for the sour folks.
Right.
Yeah.
All I did was just sip the little drop that was coming off the can there, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. When you said Small Pony, because all of Sean's beers always say golden sour, and I feel like that's definitely given that vibe. This is a roller coaster. I love it.
It's kind of funny because I do less and less of these.
Okay, why is that?
Because it is a harder sell, and my palate doesn't necessarily go right to a golden sour anymore. Like I prefer something like the Lil Sippy. I'm gonna drink Lando every day, if I
you-
want to.
Gotcha.
But something that has acidity, but more balance to it. Where the golden sours, I'm like, yep,
I love it. Well,
we're doing that.
that's how we're doing it, gentlemen.
Cheers.
She's empty.
Cheers, yo. Oh, we'll wait. We can wait for you, bro. Well, I'm gonna sip. Fuck it.
You sip.
Woohoo! Let's go.
Oh
That's
yeah.
great. That's, you know what? It's actually so much. I like big sour beers too, and I know Nate does as well.
Yep.
So it's not like but it hits you in the beginning, but then as soon as you get into the sip, it's almost like at the very beginning, you're like, oh, and then it's like, oh yeah, we're good.
This,
Which is
So
nice.
it's like,
beer in
yeah,
particular-
I remember this. I remember this.
Yeah, exactly.
This one in particular, I find it it's such a kind of lovely ride on your palate. So whenever I'm making beer, I think about like front palate, mid palate, and then finish, and then how it like lingers after it. And in particular with the Existential, it is sharp, sour up front, and like in like a like we're there, and then as the mid palate hits, it just kind of turns into peach and softens up in a way, and like it's still sour, like it's, you know, but and then finishes off and doesn't stick around in like that, like oh that's like hurting my teeth sour. I'm like, this is like, if you want a golden sour with flavor and it's clean, the finish on it is lovely, like that's it. It's doing it.
Yeah.
But like, you have to like sour beer.
Yes. Yeah, this would be a hard ask for people who are a bit newer to the game.
It's not an intro.
No, certainly not.
Yeah. Yeah. The way you described that was perfect. What's a peach brandy barrel? Is it peach brandy? Is that like
So it was a
brandy that was-
bourbon barrel
okay?
that was then used for peach brandy and then sent to me essentially. Like, so I think it was, I'm assuming all out of Kentucky area. It was through a barrel broker, so I wasn't directly in contact with the distiller who was doing the peach brandy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a peach brandy is just so it's a bourbon barrel with the brandy in it. Is it actual peaches though?
And actual peaches.
And actual peaches as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think, not that the peaches were in the barrel, but like the alcohol was soaked in the peaches, and that flavor comes through. Like there's no fruit in that beer.
Yeah. This is great, man. I haven't had a beer like this in ages.
Yeah, neither have I.
Yeah, it's really like it's so much. It's tripping me out because like you said, you want to take your palate on a roller coaster. Well, you are wrong. It's cool because it's like it's a bit of a trip with the intense puckering into really quickly, like real quickly. It hits you like what the fuck, and then by the time you even have that thought, it's relaxed, which is really nice. It's super chill, and the peach is like that stone fruit is glorious. I think peach is probably my favorite fruit in beer, and it's man, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is one of those beers that I'm like, this was my original plan of the brewery was this stuff, kind of Cascade style. Like, here's what we're gonna do, and a lot of the beers we put out early on were very much in this overarching of like, this is a golden sour barrel aged, like the blending is limited, is much less on this compared to a lot of the other beers we do, but like it is a beer that I want one of. You know what I mean? Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like, and like talking about Arabella, we were there for the Pulp thing.
Yes.
And Reducto, our collab with Half Hours, was on, which is a barrel-aged ice sour that
crazy.
is like like with Zinfandel juice fermented out, and I looked at Ben and it was like, you're serving that in like 12 ounce. I can't remember what the size was. I was like, yo, that's supposed to be a dessert wine. When we were selling the 375 ml bottles, I was like, that is enough for 4 people. This is how you're supposed to drink it. You're supposed to drink it 2 ounces at a time. And like I told the staff, I was like, oh yeah, pour me 2 ounces. That's perfect. That
2
beer
ounces
is wild. It's like one of the craziest beers I have ever done. And in my head, I still have the this picture of Kyle and Kristen pouring the Zinfandel juice into the fermenter while we're doing primary ferment, and just being like, all right, here we go. Like, and they're like, yeah, this could be great. And then they closed down and didn't even do it with me, but whatever. And that beer went outside in January after primary fermentation when it was like -22. I left it outside for 24 hours. Half of it froze, and then the rest of it all went into barrels for like 3.5 years or something like that.
Damn.
But 2 ounces at a time. That's the proper way to drink that. And somebody like how are you drinking a pint of 13? Like this, it's a 13+% sour.
Wow.
It was ice distilled, right?
Yeah.
That's like, I would do that regularly with stouts, like up 16-17%, and I take it to the face with an opener like of 8 to 10%. But that's very different to what you're describing. It's not the same comparison at all.
No, I mean, Arabella is really good about understanding different beers, and I'm in no way trying to give them shit for this. It's more of I'm like, this is barely a beer.
Yeah.
And some of the beers I do, sometimes I'm like, this is barely a beer. So when people put the wrong lens on it, I'm always like, oh, like you're thinking about it like you're drinking your next crispy or whatever it is, and you just that's not what this is. No. And that has been such a struggle on my end of communication to customers and how to do it. And like, I'm at the brewery all the time, and so if you drink at the brewery, it's often a very different experience. And a lot of my struggle of some of the stuff we put out there going out into the world, it's hard to really control that narrative. And there's only so much, like, I can't go around and teach every bar staff about, like, let's, wash our Brett Pale Ale and why it tastes like horse blanket. Is super good, but like, it is our lowest rated beer by like country mile of just like, well, this is what this beer is, and like trying to like, it's not going to be for everyone, but that kind of stuff.
There's some consumer education needed there with and
I can't stand beside you and talk about the beer every time you drink it. It has been a bit of a struggle on that side. I'd love to be like, yeah, come hang out, we'll drink a beer. Yeah, I swear you'll love it if I explain it to you properly. But I mean, this is why lager is great, because it doesn't need an explanation. You can just drink a lager, and this is why that's like 95% of the beer made in the world, right?
Yeah. That's what people think of when they think they think of beer. That's super interesting with the Reducto. Now I've never had that one before, and I really want to now, especially after hearing you describe it. But I have had a couple of different Eisbocks before, and like those are the same kind of thing, like you were talking about, with it freezing and then taking what's left of it and putting in a barrel. And what I find with those is that like what you wind up with after the frozen water is taken out is what you end up with is super, super concentrated.
Oh,
Like, and that's and that's how that tends to come out. So I think it, like you've described that very well. Like that is a sipping beer, and that like that's really like meant to be a dessert because port. That's exactly. Like that's a super concentrated beer right there.
And we released that beer last Christmas as part of our, I think it was the first of our Speak for the Dead series. And the response on it was, actually, no, it wasn't Speaker for the Dead. It was just because it had taken so long in the barrels to do. But the response on it was huge because there's so many people out there who are like, we loved Half Hours on Earth. And I was like, well, you better buckle up for this one, Bo, because this wasn't just a normal, like, this isn't their blueberry pancake sour IPA. This is a real different ride, bud.
Oh, it's
that blueberry pancake, by the way, is yes, that is Cee and mine's favorite Half Hours beer.
Yeah.
Hands down.
I know. I had it and I was like, oh, you did it.
Yeah.
You did it.
It's like honestly one of the best Canadian beers I think of all time. Like it was so spectacular. Like I think Nate, you got it for me and you gassed it up, and it more than lived up to any expectations. It was so good.
Yeah, I didn't oversell it.
Oh no, my God, no. And even on that, I have this. There was an order I got. Maybe it was through you or my brother of some Half Hours stuff before knowing that they were going to close. And I think I just took my time because they're all bottles. So I took my time and drank them. And I ended up having 1 half-hour bottles left. It was something weird like an oak-aged smoked beer or something. Yeah. And I have 1 bottle of like Lando or something else that's sort of weird from you, Rob. And then I got the Reducto and I couldn't bring myself to drink it because I have 1 of each of you and then the 1 together. And I've got them like front and center at the top shelf in my cellar, like looking beautiful. And I'm just like, I feel like it'd be like really cool to drink together because that's it for half an hour. That half hours is all I have, and then the collab, and then that, and I felt like that's like a sharing situation to drink those 3 together. I just felt like that's really special, so I sort of like couldn't bring myself to open it yet because it's like I know I'm going to, but I'm just like it needs to be an occasion because this is like the end of an era.
Maybe you should wait until it's been like 5 years since they closed or something because we got to be coming up on that soon.
Did they close 2020?
I think
that's what I'm wondering. If it was 2020 or 2021.
I think they were closed before COVID.
No, it wasn't before COVID. It was during COVID for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
167 weeks ago was their last Instagram post, so that might. And it was 173. What's 173 weeks? That's basically like 3 and a bit years.
3 and change, yeah.
3 and change. So, I think that's not a bad idea, actually, Nate, to try and to do that. So I really, it's, and that was when I was reading that. What's the percentage?
Okay, here. November 25th, 2021.
Okay, there we go. So
okay.
3 and change.
Yeah.
So it would be cool. That'd be 2026. End of 2026 to drink those beers by. That's pretty cool. What was I gonna say? What's the ABV on Reducto, bro?
On 13? The label, it's 11.9, but it's like 13 and change.
Thought so. And it was the 2 ounces. So it could. Like when you're doing the thing at Arabella, like have you asked them to be like, yo, like how about maybe pour it, 4 ounces?
I think it's been, I think it's hard for them to do that. Like their goal is to sell beer and like
move product.
And it was one of those things that I didn't think about until I was there and was like, right. Of course you're selling this in like. But then you're like, if you're going to sell it in 2 ounce pours, that's going to be like a really slow go for you as a bar in terms of turnover on a tap, right?
Unless it's really cheap or something, like sort of like not really cheap, but like accordingly cheaper. Like you're charging
exactly.
for 12
the price is where it should. Yeah,
it's a tough one.
It's a weird one. But it also is not a regular beer day problem. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
this is not something you're gonna run. And I should have thought about it beforehand, and I just didn't, because
And that's okay.
balls in the air, right? Balls in the air, and
A lot happening.
yeah. But they had said somebody came in and filled a growler of it, like, and I was just
Is that 32 ounces?
who is the mad person who has done this? Like,
wow.
good Lord, like that's a lot.
How carbonated is it? Like just a little bit carb?
It's pretty low. Yeah, it's a low
Like
carb on purpose.
That's what I thought, like the big stouts, big barley wines, or whatever. So it'd be very similar. So you could hypothetically keep it, if you had 2 ounces a day, 32 ounces, what's that, 60 over 2 weeks and a bit, you could keep it pretty fresh and it wouldn't really fuck it up too much if you sort of gave it a bit of an aggressive pour. It agitates it.
You could. I'm not saying you should.
Just so you're not drinking 12 ounces of the damn stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You could.
Ooh. That's really fascinating. Is it literally the only and the final half hours beer to ever exist now? That's it? Like they have no other collabs pending with somebody else that's sitting, or yourself that's sitting in.
And I was way after that. I don't think Kyle or Kristen will watch this, but I am sorry, because they were apparently inundated by that campaign I did. Campaign.
Oh, when you did the social thing?
Oh, when you were like, who knows where Kyle is or whatever?
Yeah, where's Kyle and Kristen? And then they were like, we hate the beer. No, I'm adding in words here. They're like, we have no desire to be involved in this in any way. Please stop. It was like, ooh, I misread that one. I didn't think it was going to go that way. I thought, anyways.
They thought it'd be fun.
I thought it was going to be fun, and it was very much I'm sorry about that.
Gotcha. Understood.
And you know what? Like, I don't know the full circumstances of how and why closed. I don't know. And like, we were work friends, I guess, industry friends, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I had their ear and was talking to them all the time, so I didn't know them like that well. I felt like I was close enough with them, but yeah, but I did feel
totally
bad
get
after that. Yeah, I did feel
you meant
bad.
well. That's okay.
It wasn't on purpose. It was unintentional, but
yeah, totally. I'd asked them to be on the pod, and they had explicitly declined. They said they don't talk to people, they don't do anything like that. Which was a shame, but it was like, it doesn't happen very often. So I always remember the ones when people like say that they're not very interested. So I was like, okay, these are a bit more insular people that just kind of want to do their shit and don't really want to yap about it and like that. Yep. And I respect it for sure. So I'm not surprised, but at the same token, it was fun. It was a good way for you to get attention on, to the beer from you and a brewery that is now defunct, that was beloved, and your heart was in the right place. And so I feel like they wouldn't be mad at you about it. They're probably just like, hey man, like, we good. So like that's okay. I wouldn't feel bad.
I don't think they're mad. I
couldn't imagine.
But,
I would imagine they're not. I'm sure they're reasonable people, but it's very cool. And on the Arabella part, that was something that I noticed straight away, that was that on tap. I think they had something else of yours on tap there as well, maybe a pale ale or something. Or was it just that?
Did they have True Believer on? I don't remember actually.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Either way, though, it was really cool to see, because like I said, only my second time there, that big blue board with with the white marker they write.
Oh man, it's so great.
Isn't it awesome? Like Nate and I went when 2023, I think we went.
Yeah, and I had been a bunch before from when my friend used to live there, and that is one of my favorite beer bars anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
is Arabella Park. They're so great there. Like you say, that big blue board with all of the beers written on it. It's it's so
iconic.
it's so attractive, and just it's great to see all of the beers lined up there, and it's a cool experience to see one get wiped off and another one written on.
Mhm.
In fact, my very first time there, that my friend brought me there, was when I had my first taste of Barncat, actually, and I saw that I saw them wipe one beer off the board, and they wrote down on it Barncat 36 chain. I'm like, okay, that's my next beer. Getting it, I'm getting that one right now, and and just such a cool experience. And they've got amazing food there too.
Oh yeah,
their food program is awesome. They they make a fantastic fried chicken sandwich there.
Nailed it.
That's what Rob had.
Yeah.
Every time I go, I had it on Saturday, but I had a different version of it, and I immediately regretted it. Sorry, Ben, it was your recommendation, but I was like, no, this is not the Nashville hot. I always just need to stick with the Nashville hot chicken because it's so good.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had that Jamaican burger. I know what you mean. You try and get, let's get a bit frisky. Let's try something
change
different.
it up.
And you're like,
Let's change
fuck.
it
Then
stick with the winner.
Stick with the winner. I had this Jamaican smash burger that was kind of like a jerk. It was beef, but it was like jerk. Oh, it was fantastic. It was so nice. And it was cool to me.
I'm so glad that you had the Nashville hot chicken. That makes me very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
have them everywhere I go, but that one is very good.
It really is.
Yeah, when you get a good one, they're the best. They really are. What I liked about it was, we're saying this off air, but it was a Monday night at 6, 7 o'clock, some shit. It was minus 20 something, 26 or something like that. Tons of snow in comparison to Hamilton. I was very shocked at how much snow was in Kitchener. And it was busy as hell. I couldn't believe how busy it was. And I thought that was amazing. That was one of the most, I've told a handful of people about that because it was such a positive thing. I was like, this is amazing, dude.
I told everyone I knew to show up just so I'd seem popular, and it definitely worked.
Well, everyone was saying hi to you, and everyone was the bartender was excited. He's like, "Are you from Shawfinger?" I'm not. No, I wish I was. No. It was just very cool, and to me, it was once again, Nate and I went in the May 24-ish type of thing. I think it was. Is that right, Nate, or was it cold?
No, it was Canada Day weekend, actually.
It was hot. Okay, it was the rainy day.
Very
we went to Willowbold.
It was a very rainy Canada Day weekend.
Very different. Either way, it was cool to see and weather that was extremely unwelcoming, and the bar was rammed on a Monday, and a lot of people who knew who you were, and I was like, oh, this is dope. This is that local pride thing that really is what it's all about. I was like, this is sick. And seeing that beer, of all the beers that you could have had on the board, it was they had the fucking Redactor. I was like, all right, that's actually pretty damn cool. That it's probably going to sit there for a bit, but that's cool.
Oh, yeah, I think it's on there for a bit. Ben is really good about letting me throw down some non-standard beer.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's good with a lot of people about that too, which I've appreciated because we don't have a lot of licensees. We don't send out to a lot of bars, and having a local that is willing to actually try stuff that isn't standard is amazing. Because even a lot of beer bars, they want IPA, they want lager. They want a fruited sour.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. You're ticking some boxes, and I get that is what's going to move. And this is another thing I really appreciate about Beertown, actually, which comes out of Kitchener-Waterloo. Tansy. She is willing to put on.
Isn't she the best?
She'll put on a great board of no, we're not just going to do we're not going to play the hits in terms of we got nothing but IPAs on and a few this and that. She spreads it out. She gets styles so people can try them and try different beers. It's I'm not going to Beertown all the time. It's not, I go there regularly enough, but for your introductory beer drinker, that's a great spread. So you can try different styles from them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about beer bars, I'm going to shout out one of my locals here that I've several times been able to enjoy Lando at, which is Bar Lupulus here, like here in Ottawa, and like it's so cool to like to be able to get short finger that far away, like from Kitchener, and like and more than once too. Like they've had that one on a few times that I've been there.
They emailed me, and I think I forgot to email them back. They're like, "Hey, coming to Ottawa," and you just reminded me. I was like, "Shit, did I respond to that email?" I don't know if I did.
I'm glad it came up here.
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder. I'm gonna have to.
Oh, of course.
In the morning. We used to run beer up to Ottawa regularly through Revel when Tark was really heyday and shit. He was doing like a monthly up to Ottawa, so we'd send up to Dominion City. They'd kind of cross stock for us and then send it out to bars in Ottawa. But after COVID, that all kind of dropped, so I really haven't set anything up in a little bit. But they did buy a bunch of like, random beers like Lando's, and I told them, I was like, oh yeah, you can, like, my shelf life that I've put on Lando's is like 29 years and like 354 days, because I just picked, I was like, fuck it, it's going. I think it's just gonna go.
Yep.
It might not, and I may have to like redact that and send out a whole bunch of emails to everybody who's aging there for too long. But yeah, no, I like Bar Lupulus. I think it is a solid beer bar.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Beer bars are so important, and then to piggyback off that, like, you know, in Hamilton we have Durand that have the bar and the fridge. They always have short finger in the fridge. Do you ever get kegs out to Chris?
Not really. What?
I feel like once or twice, maybe.
That also just reminds me of somebody was up from Hamilton the 2 Sundays ago, and they go to Durand, and they've been talking about short finger because the guy was like, "Oh, I love short finger," blah blah, and they bought a whole bunch of beer, and he was like, "Yeah." The owner was like, "This is the best craft beer that doesn't sell," and I was just like, "You just broke my heart a little, bud." You really?
Well,
and I mean, they bring in a lot of our like sour and different stuff, and which is great. And I'm like, yeah, I know, like, we're not blowing off the shelf like your double IPA and whatnot, but it was just like, yep.
I feel like it's not only you, and that's the problem. There's like an awareness game, which I feel like is part of the hustle. I don't know. I know what you're saying, that's like, it's like a rough thing to hear, but I kind of feel like it's positive because he's stalking you because he believes in you. Like that was the last episode we filmed before I left for Florida, but with Chris from Durand and Mark from Sidewalk in Waterloo there. Like, I'm sure you know Mark as well. And we called the episode Trust the Fridge, because if that's how I discovered Sparrow. I just rocked up. I know Chris well. I've known him. He's helped me find my area where we decided to live. Like, he's been very instrumental in my life in Hamilton, and that store is the greatest thing that happened. You know, and to Nate too, because I get a lot of stuff and ship it out to Nate. So it's been very, very helpful. And I like, for what Chris and Mark do is imperative, including Bar Lupulus, including Tamsy. All these people are so important. And there's I saw Sparrow, didn't know what it was, and I was like, I don't know. I trust Chris. I trust this fridge. If he has it in here, it's not some fucking weak ass shit. So I just bought a bunch. Whatever he had, I just bought it all, and I was like, what is this? And then I got in touch with the gentleman whose name is escaping me from Sparrow.
Greg.
And pardon?
Greg.
Mike? Greg. That's what I thought. Okay, Greg. And he told me that Matt from Barncat is the brewer, and that's, you know, and I was like, okay. And then we started talking, and, you know, every time I get it, you know, so it's like, there's things like that. But I think that I'm an educated craft beer consumer. So there's some people who come in there that just maybe go for their regulars and don't really look. Or some people just, I don't know, I just want a lager. Let me just go here. And they'll just, you know, maybe they don't explore, they don't ask questions or whatever. So the fact that all these businesses that we're bigging up stock, the French Fuse. I had that at Beer Town in Oakville, and it was fantastic. The one when I had it, to be honest, and I think I told Jen, when I got it, it had no head on it, and the first thing I was like, "Oh, Rob's gonna be pissed," because it wasn't. It was zero. It was totally, but it was a beautiful beer. It tasted great, and it was proper coaster, short finger coaster. Everything was awesome about it.
I know. I actually did coasters. I did a lot to get into Beer Town that I've never done before.
Okay.
Coasters, branded glass.
They're very big on coasters there.
Yeah.
And it was a push for me, but sometimes I'm like, I just got to get the fuck out of my own way. I'm just like,
you did the right
just
thing,
gotta
bro.
like let shit happen. This is part of it. And being on at Beer Town and doing the French Fuse was great. I had to delete my comment on your post because Tamsley was like, "Oh yeah, our social people said you kind of threw us under the bus," and I was like, "I can see how you would think that because that post was not overly positive, and I will take that down." And it wasn't that I was trying to throw them under the bus. I was like, "That's not actually how that should be." How I would like to
because
see
I
it.
posted it.
Yeah.
Is that how it happened? I posted and tagged you, and you saw it, and you were like, "Bro,"
and I was like, "Oh no!" Like it really should have a, and like it was, and then I was like, "Oh fuck yeah, that does sound like I'm being a dick to Beer Town," which was not my intention, but
it was just a bad pour from the bartender. But that's okay, or it sat too long. Probably
I
as
think
well.
It probably sat a bit, but like honestly, that beer is lovely. I love the French Fuse.
Fantastic.
And I think the stuff I bottled for you guys,
it tasted great.
Yeah,
well, for one, you were the only people who got bottled French Fuse, except for the people who were at Short Finger for Festivus, because we have a Festivus party every year. So I bottled like 3 of those 375 mils for you, 2, and then Tamsy, and then a 9-liter like Jeroboam for myself for Festivus, and then just like Festivus, we had this ridiculous party and just cracked it and was just pouring French Fuse for everybody because it was a good time and a great beer. I loved it.
Super fun. Yeah. I love that.
And who doesn't want a 9-liter bottle?
How much does that weigh? Because that's like
it was like
a tuba.
It was a lot, and I didn't drop it, didn't break it or anything, but it was one of those, our bar only fits like 25 people. 9 liters of beer is actually a lot of beer for all of these people to now consume. So you're all drinking French Fuse.
God damn it, that's what's happening. Yeah. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
But I love it. So to bring that home before we get to the next beer, I think it's great that you are appearing in all of these spaces. Whether it's Beer Town doing the French Fuse or any of these bottle shops, and the fact that I think it's just a consistent thing over time. These people, whether it's Tamsy, Mark, Chris, any other store, are very the curators, right? They're curating stuff that they think is the best of the best that they in the province, and you're in that conversation. I think that's great, and that therefore you're already there. It's not like you're striving to get in there. You're already there. You just got to get more people to understand what it is. And if you're saying it's the best beer that doesn't sell, that means that they believe in you. I think that's actually a really positive thing. And they are annoyed because you're like, well, y'all don't get it. Like, y'all need to understand how good this shit is. So they're going to keep buying from you. They need to, do you know what? I say this here publicly on the pod. I would love to see a Short Finger tap takeover at Durant because he's got, I think, 8 to 10 taps. He's done. He's done one Wood Brothers. I think he's done one for Third Moon and one for Badlands. I went to the Badlands and Third Moon ones, and it was fantastic because it's such a tiny space. Like, it's as big as this little kitchen that I'm kind of in now, and it's like it rams out really quick. You can have 20 people in there, and it's packed. And it's such a vibe, and it's really cool to see. He loves the small kegs, 20 liters or whatever. So it's like a whole bunch of stuff. It's kind of rare. Then he can put them back on over the next couple of weeks if it doesn't all tap out. But I feel like that could be an awareness play in a city like Hamilton that has a thriving beer scene. You could do the same at Bar Lupulus. You could do the same at anywhere else. to do that, and I feel like that would be basically contributing to that conversation, to get you more in that conversation. They can try your lager, they can try your haze, and they can try sours like this. They could try your more, Lando, which is different type of stuff, and all the, you could easily feel that, said you got that Baltic Porter, you got all of these beers that I just feel like, I know, I feel like that could be really fun, dude. And I feel like that could make a...
We've done Lupulus. I did a takeover there.
Oh, good.
I mean, it's, what, it's that funny thing. It's after COVID, getting back into like full swing of what are we going to really like push in terms of events and whatnot. So I've done less out of town takeovers.
Gotcha.
I think I did one at Pharmacy Bar in Toronto. And I think that's the last Toronto one that we did. We did one a long time ago at Bar Hop too.
Nice. It's a good look.
Although they're closing down that location.
Peter, yeah, I love that location too.
Yeah,
such a shame.
Too bad.
I think it's such bad.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's a pain in the ass for you to do as well, because you got to get all the kegs and lug them down and set it all up and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like that could be something that could bridge that gap of the knowledge, the knowledge and awareness gap, to be like, oh, we should be buying more of this because this is fucking crazy. I've seen it and I know it looks good and I've had a couple of beers and I know it's good, but maybe that it's not front of mind, and it could just be like, you have one tap takeover where you have all of these different styles, and they might just be like, oh, I didn't realize they did all of this. And I didn't realize, wow, True Believer is amazing on tap. Like, that was my first experience with it. It was great from the can. I preferred it over on draft, and sometimes it can go either way.
Yeah.
And just to have that experience of that is like, yo, this is like, I don't know, just a thought to plant a little seed there, because I'm saying it selfishly, obviously, because you're pretty sick.
Because you want me to come down to him, which I will do. I'm gonna disappear for.
Maybe we'll pause and we'll go to the bathroom for a second. Let's just pause, make it easier, and we'll
Pause.
get the next beer.
Cool.
All right, we're pausing.
Yep.
And we're back. We're switching it up. We're keeping the roller coaster moving.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this. Love it. This little bad boy is up next. We have a little bit of Fresh Hell, which is honestly a really cool ass name for a beer.
It's a great name.
It's great name. So this is technically a collab with my good friend John Johnson, also known as Barefaced Design.
Okay.
And so he made enamel pins that were essentially the cross. And the original version of Fresh Hell, we had colored versions of the label. So there was a red one, a green one, and a yellow-blue one, and they would vary between. So you get a 4-pack and you get a random color mix. I made this beer 100% on John Johnson posted the pin and was like, dude, we're going to make that into a beer and that is going to be the label. And he was just like, yep, okay. And that is how that beer became a beer. And it was at the time where I was starting the lager program for us, which has been like a drastic change from what I had originally planned on doing.
Okay.
Because as I had said earlier, when we first started, our plan was we're going to make barrel-aged blended sours, and we're going to make funky, weird beers that are not what most breweries are making. And, things change. You adapt, you realize, okay, like, maybe this doesn't work just as its solo thing. We, not everybody just wants to drink that. And so timing was perfect on it with what I saw. It was like, yeah, that's going to be our lager. And it has been our lager now since 2021.
Nice.
And a big part of that was like I don't have any debts on the brewery. I built this thing completely out of just like the small amount of money I had. And I got to a point where I could afford a glycol system in 2021. So built it all out myself and put it in. And like we ended up with a proper chilling system. And that is why you have beers like Pulp coming out, Fresh Hell, all that, because we actually have the equipment to do it. Like I said, like Craig, you were by. We are not a standard brewery. We're a very small one, but like our tanks are, it's like you walked
Decent
into,
size. Yeah.
well, they're decent size, but they're mismatched. Like we've got tanks of like, and they all look slightly different. And I have a couple of these, a couple of that, and that's how I built it and put it all together. And I personally love that. I think that's like, I have built the brewery that I always wanted to build, of just like, it's scrappy. It is not a polished anything, but we're making amazing beer with, like, we have the tools we need to do it, but it's not fancy. And I don't think I would do it any other way. So
That's dope, man.
I like that. Well, that deserves a cheers right there. God damn it! I'm just gonna
Yeah.
write that
Cheers.
time down.
Let's do it. Let's have
Cheers,
some fresh
gentlemen.
hell.
Get that
Cheers.
in. Beauty. Nice and malty.
Yep.
Hell, obviously,
that's
hell is
great.
lager, right?
Mhm.
It's so interesting, like, because we've been doing the the order that we've been doing it in. Normally, like, you know, as we said at the beginning, you kick off with a lager or something like that. So it's really interesting to have these flavors like midway through a drinking session. It totally switches up the perception, perhaps, of a lager.
Yeah, and you're gonna need, like, well, we did have a little bit of a break there between. After that, after the existential, which no one will remember because it's not on the label anyways. A lager is exactly what I want.
Right.
I just like, take it back. We're gonna just
Reset.
have something clean, run it off there, and that is how I approach a lot of sour beers. Of like, no, I'm not just gonna knock out like 3 Landos. No, it's this. Switch back. We have this, and just let your palate kind of adjust. Even though that is not how, as like a BJCP judge or any of that, like, you're technically supposed to do that. But I mean, a lot of the things that I originally started doing with beer and how I was told this is how we do it, I have thrown out. I remember drinking in my backyard with a guy in one of my homebrew clubs in Toronto, and he had like an IPA and something else beside him, and he was like, I don't really like this, and he just like blended a beer in front of me to how he wanted it, with like what he had in front of him. And at the time, being like, because I think I'd brewed one of them, was like, yo, that's not how we're supposed to drink that. Like, you know, like that, like, and now I'm very much like, no, he put together the beer that suited his palate at the time. And like, I got over that pretty quickly after that. And that's when I really got into blending and being like, oh no, you can pull this characteristic from this beer layered in here. Like, you came over and did the blending process, and it was a pretty quick one, but like, I want a touch of this, I want a touch of that, and boom, boom, boom. We're putting all of these things together, which wouldn't necessarily come together easily as one complete brew beer. You have to put these pieces in place. And yeah, a lot of the things that I thought I knew about beer have just been thrown out the window, including like second use hops, and what we're doing with the collab with you guys using the second use pulp on there. I've had multiple people ask me about what I'm doing and why, like, this process, because I'm sure other people do it, I have no idea. I haven't found anyone else who is actively doing it in the same way that we are, but it was just like, I want to use this flavor and put it into this next beer, but I want to soften it. And I don't want to just throw it out because it's also wasteful. There's so much flavor in these hops that are sitting in the bottom of this IPA, and figuring out how to put it into another beer and change that beer and make it something totally interesting and different. And yeah, no, I don't think you learn that shit at brewing school. And also you they're probably going to warn you not to brew mixed fermentation either, because it is it's a gamble.
Right. Totally. I think that's actually a good segue into that. So, like, we have this is like I was telling you off air. Like, we haven't spoken about this publicly at all about in any in depth, but we have said that BAOS 10th anniversary is in April/May. Mostly the first pod was uploaded in April 15th, and then the way I did it was wrong, and I had to pull it down and then re-upload it a different way because I wasn't taking it seriously. It was a side project at the time. So we never really had like an official, because I had to pull the first episode down, then put it back up with the second episode. And so we never really had like an official anniversary. Because this is our 10th, we hit up a bunch of our favorite breweries that, people, the humans that we really loved, and then the breweries that we love to do some collabs with. And we're obviously doing an event as well, which I guess we could say we're going to announce it properly at a full announcement, but it's going to be a big event. Maybe we won't say all the event stuff right now, but it's going to be at the end of May in Toronto at a space everyone's familiar with. And we're doing a significant volume of collabs, about 40 plus collabs with some of the best breweries in Ontario, Quebec, New York, and Texas. And one of those incredible collabs is with Uncle Rob right here at Short Finger. So,
of course it is.
Of course it is, because how could we not? So I came up for the first time. That was it was great, because this collab is like not forcing in a bad way, but just being like, you have to get out to go and do the blend, or to do to get the content and stuff. So it's great. So actually forcing us to get out. You're close to me, Nate's in Ottawa, so I was like, sick. We're kind of dividing and conquering. So I got to finally come up, meet you in person, hang out with Rob for the afternoon, which was very, very cool. Do you want to talk? Maybe you're going to speak about this better. So we wanted to do some sort of Lando-esque beer, because that is what you're known for. That is what if people think Short Finger, they think Lando, they think barrel aged sort of farmhouse sour type vibes. Like you said, we did a mini blend, but personally, it was the first one I had been involved in. All of our collabs had been pretty straight up and down, brew a beer, chuck it in a can type shit. Do you want to break down what we're doing? Because I feel like, why the fuck not? We could give him. We don't even have a name or anything yet, but we could at least talk about the process of what we did.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. So the reason you haven't done that, because most breweries do not blend.
Correct.
Blending is more of a wine thing, or larger scale of blending down for consistency versus like layering flavors and picking out something useful. That would be where blending would mostly come into the beer world. And it is my favorite part of Short Finger is the days that I get to blend things, because it's so unique. And the process of being like, I am going to pick and choose the flavors that I want to put together here, and also having the thought of like, how is this going to taste cold? How is this going to taste carbonated? Will this drop? Will this pull up? And just like piecing together a full beer in this way is complicated, and it, in a lot of ways, I would describe it more as art than a science. But
that sounds right,
because I move off of my palate. And one of the scariest things for me during COVID was when people were like, you could lose your palate. And I'm sure chefs feel the same way, that like if you got COVID, you wouldn't be able to taste anything. And I was like, I wouldn't be able to blend fuck. Like, it would be, and like, if it like actually changed my palate completely, because it's so built off of like, I am looking for this. So when we pulled for you, I think we had four
Yes.
things
We
on the
tried
table.
other ones, but we ran with four.
We picked four that we wanted to work with. One being the cold IPA as a hoppy base to like blend in. The other one being stainless saison with which was mixed ferment and slightly sour, and then 2 barrel aged a punch in, which I think was like 2 years, and then something that was like 2 and change, but was now in stainless that I already moved out. And then picking that like percentage, because like when I do it, it's with a syringe, so then I can be like, okay, we take 5 mil of this, maybe 10 mil of this. We put it in with 50 mil of our base. What are we looking for acidity wise? What do we have to pick that up? We need something somewhat fresh to liven it up, because barrel beers are just not, they're super flavorful, but they have a lot, there's a flatness to them. So it's a matter of like picking this up while layering in here. And yeah, it's kind of like just painting a beer picture in your mind kind of thing of what you want to do. And
that's a bar.
We're known for, yes, Lando, but I think another beer that stands out for people who like mixed ferment is Aliens Exist. And this is one of the reasons why I like this collab of our second use dry hop of the Pulp, because that's what I built Aliens off of, which is a brand that is also in the beer towns. And it is always a second use dry hop of our True Believer Pale Ale, which you guys had, and then the next hoppy beer that I have. And the time frame on it is much longer than your normal IPAs, which are usually like a 2-day turn on your dry hop. You get most of what you want out of that. We'll do a couple weeks on it. They're extremely hoppy beers, but also super funky, lightly tart. Having that hop addition in there shuts down some of the souring agents, so it doesn't actually take off and become kind of like the golden sours with that Existential. Like, that's a sour beer. We can kind of more like Lil Sippy, tailor it a little bit more so it's acidic, but you're not like, oh my god, that's sour. There's a lot more layers into it. I love blending beer. It's fun.
It's sick. It was a really fun experience because I didn't think of that, like as all of those nuances of like putting a fresh pale ale or whatever into a beer. I was like, oh, it'd be like that we're trying to do. I'm like, oh shit, okay. And then the mustiness of the barrel of the raw. Like, I'd had beers from barrel before, but not this style of beer. I had like, pull the nail and be like, you drank some fucking barley wine or something with Avant-Garde in Montreal, but like I hadn't done this type of thing, and it was really cool to try them all individually. And then, like, you get that syringe. You're like, all right, here's a fresh glass. And you're popping them in and making it even. We're like, all right, I think we did that 2 or 3 times to sort of get something. And then it was perfect because I got to try the pulp from the fermenter, which Nate will have the final beer. And then it's even cooler, I think, for this collab, for that history, to use the, for what this pulp beer means to the scene in Kitchener and Cambridge and beyond. And taking that second use, which is also that Aliens beer that is such a big deal for Shortfinger, which is something that's important to Nate and I, that when we're doing these collabs, we want it to be, it has to make sense for the brewery as well. We want to play into the strengths and what, we don't have to do something completely left field, which is fine, but I think it's better. We think it's better if we do it that way. So be able to take the second use, which you just described super well, because there's so much flavor in it, and be able to use that. And right now you're telling us off air that the beer currently, the blend is sitting on the second use hops, getting that kind of dry hop in there. You take it off after a day or two, and then we let it sit for, for a couple months. Is that correct?
We'll probably do like 2 weeks on this, just because I want to get it into.
Oh, 2 weeks on the dry hop.
On this one, I have done
Sick.
6 weeks max on it. It'll probably be 2 weeks, which is a little longer than you'd is longer than you normally do for like a pale ale dry hop.
Of course, because it's
but
a
I want to get it
use,
conditioned because this is conditioning time is very important to me in terms of developing the flavor of the beer, especially because I'll use our house culture to condition this beer. We got to make sure there's no off flavors. I was talking to you about THP and you're like, what the hell is THP? I'm like,
yes.
Oh, as a sour brewer, I know all about THP. Half Hours on Earth knew all about THP. You know, like it's there's a time thing that needs to happen, and also like, okay, like you'll taste this along the way and we'll know where it's going. And the house culture does the best after 2 months minimum, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. I'm kind of like, that's where Lando's, that's why I've been, January is when I do my Lando's for June, because I know I've hit my like window of these have conditioned long enough. I am going to be very happy with this, and it's just going to get better. It's a bad business model because you're sitting on product for longer than you should, but the end product is so much better.
Which
so
is
what
important.
am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'll wait 6 months.
And it's like the beer tells you when it's ready type shit.
Yeah.
In this
there's
world.
times where I'm like, well, that's 1 month in. That's delicious. That's tasting awesome. Like, absolutely.
It's not going to get
a good
better.
blend for sure. Like, that's great. Hopefully it's just getting better, but it's already delicious. But I'm always like, you get into that 3-4 month range. And that's beautiful.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's sick. And it's going to be so interesting. I'm truly fascinated to see how it sort of matures and how it turns out as far as, yeah, it's a really interesting blend. And like, could we speak to the final product, what you are hoping that it's going to turn out to be? Like, how would you describe it?
I haven't done it with like a fruit edition, especially in secondary like this. So there is going to be a bit of an unknown in terms of how much of that citrusy clementine notes are going to come through
from the hops, because it's soaked
from the
up,
hops from that second use. I'm hoping for a very like citrus forward, balanced acidity with a like sweet tart, lightly like bitter back end.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like I like a little bitterness on the back end of that beer, and I'm hoping that with that dry hop and all the extra hops we're putting in, that we get into a range where it balances out nicely and is more in the range of Lil Sippy, of a very approachable sour beer.
So at the end of the day, we're making a sour beer, a sour blend, essentially, which has portions of it barrel aged. With the second use dry hop from Pulp, so there might be some additional fruit just from that, but otherwise it's what were the hops? Remind me again for Pulp.
Pulp this year was Citra Mosaic and Rawaka, which is a New Zealand.
Yeah, NZ hop. Yeah, which is perfect. That's like such a sick blend. Yeah,
no, it was good.
I love that. So it's gonna be super fun. We are gonna come up with some names and some label ideas. I had a couple things that just came to mind. Yeah, we're gonna see where we're coming with, but this is really cool. Like, I'm super excited about it. It's once again the first blending session that I've personally been a part of, and it's super fun because I feel like this is a style that's not super prevalent anywhere anymore, at least in North America and Western countries, like maybe like some of Belgium and such, but it's kind of few and far between. And because you're so known for it, and it's like, I don't know, to us it was super interesting to do something like this because we're thinking from the collabs for a 10th anniversary, we're doing a bunch of collabs. Let's make them all unique, but also from an event, thinking what can we have to sort of differentiate everything and make it all, really fun and, make a nice diverse tap list, as you were talking about Arabella Park and other beer
Yeah.
bars and stuff that they come up with that. So we were trying to do that, and I really feel like this is going to stand out, be a very unique beer. It's going to be like a palate cleanser between other stuff, which is sick. I think it's really cool. It's exciting, man. You gotta have it. It's it's super cool. So that'll be. Do we know when that'll drop? It's like April, May. It'll be one of the two.
It'll be May. I'm gonna push it. I
Cool.
probably won't drop it until the event.
That's even. Oh, and is this going to coincide for your anniversary too? Because yours is in June.
So this is gonna be just before.
Okay, so we'll get this one out. Okay,
Because it's like a Lando adjacent blend,
gotcha.
essentially, because it did use some of the stock that I'm using on this, but obviously process wise, I have done second use dry hops on Lando, but I don't do it that often. This year will be I always do a neutral blend, which is our A series, which we're having tonight, which is the AI, and then I'm doing a raspberry one, and then I'm doing a dry hop with was it Willamette? I think it was a Willamette leaf hops after barrel aging.
Old school.
Yeah.
I like that.
Which the taste on that so far, I was like, scratches my itch. I'm like, yeah, we're getting some like cheesy, funky hop notes, which layers so nicely into the like slight and sweet tart that's just in the base of all the Landos. And I mean, I love Lando. That's my beer. That's my beer.
It's a banger. It's something that, like, to be honest, when we first connected, I wasn't super up on, and then after getting to try a bunch of the different, like, I feel like the first batch that we got before we did the pod, the first batch you got me, there was like a couple in that, and then we did some on the pod, and it was like, Jesus Christ, this is phenomenal. Like, every time I have really great, like, what would you call it? Is it farmhouse or is it like barrel aged sour? What would you call Lando?
I call it a barrel aged blend sour
barrel aged
saison.
blend. Okay, so both.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
okay.
Technically, what it's supposed to be is a bastard Gueuze.
A bastard.
That's how I essentially always describe it. It's a bastard Gueuze. I'm not doing the full lambic process on it, but I'm blending fresh and new, and I'm always shooting for something in the range of what a like classic Gueuze or like blended lambic is for what I want Lando to be, especially the A series.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And there's variation. Like, there's a reason that I batched it, because I knew this culture was gonna behave in bizarre ways. I have been maintaining our house culture now since 2017. It might have been 20. I think it was 2017 when we did the first brew of it. So it has been going, and it's been added to, it's been changed, and is its own beast now. But we have had this house culture at Shortfinger for since 2017, so 8 years,
right.
Which
that's a long time. It's coming to its own. It's really owning its shit. That just reminded me. So when, I don't know if we did this on the pod or if it was the one beforehand, but I had Lando, but you also sent the Billy D.
Oh yeah, Billy D.
Could you just explain that before? Because I know once Nate comes back, we'll jump into Lando. But just because I forget the the nuances of it, but I remember like being like, oh, this is so smart. Because I'm not as much of I've seen all this like the OG Star Wars as a kid, and it's fire, but I don't have the memory of it as much. So like maybe refresh. I think it was very cool, man.
So Lando is the overarching of what it is. Billy D, which we release every once in a while on Lando Day, which is our anniversary, is unblended, barrel-aged old stock. Whenever I find a barrel or blend like that, I'm like, yeah, that's killing it right there. That was our Billy D. But I also do Donald Glover, which is young, unblended, stainless Lando. It's all the exact same beer. I just do different things with it. And honestly, Donald Glover, I love that man.
He's a champion.
But I also love that beer. It may be one of my favorite can condition beers we did last year. We released it for Lando Day for the first time in a long time. And I remember having it, and I was like, everybody's here buying bottles of Lando, which is awesome. But this Donald Glover is so goddamn good. And it's about 4 months. These beers always take just a little bit longer to just come into their own. And every once in a while, I'll be like, this stainless, this fermenter of Lando is killing it right now. And I'll be like, that's Donald Glover. The same way I do it with the Billy D. That barrel is Billy D right there. And then everything else is just Lando. And so it's a funny,
speaks to you,
dorky, nerdy, whatever you want to call it. Like, dude, I'm extremely nerdy. I run a sci-fi punk brewery that specializes in mixed ferment barrel aged blended sours.
Doesn't get any more niche than that.
Yeah, like we're pretty niche.
But I think that's what works. I feel like if you look at everything these days, and you try to appeal to everybody, you appeal to nobody. So you got to appeal to the nichest of niche. And I don't know another brewery that appeals to somebody to a more niche audience than that. And that's what makes it go. Like, we own a marketing agency, so we talk about this stuff a lot. And you think about like Gymshark, the brand, the clothing brand that was made for people going to the gym only, but now you got people. Same as like Lululemon or something. It's made for yoga, but then people just start wearing it, and then all of a sudden, athleisure becomes a thing. And it's you make, but it's not made for athleisure. It's made for the people doing a task. Fuck, I got a little can of bottle opener for the Lando, and I keep knocking it down. Yeah, I just think it's super cool, man. I think you're doing it the right way. And what I enjoyed the most was the Billy D concept in comparison to the Lando. Obviously, people don't know Lando. Is it Calrissian is the character from Star Wars? Billy, what's his last name?
What was Billy D's last name?
Doesn't even matter.
Remember.
Billy D was the actor who played him, and then obviously in the new Star Wars, Donald Glover played him, and that's you just saying that with the young. I'm like, that's fucking so clever. And you're representing it in the beer. It's fun. It's so fun, but it's clever. It's like arguably like kind of silly. And I think that like that is what beer's about. We're getting drunk, dude. Like who gives like make it fun. I think that's what you do.
That's why we're here, to have fun. Yeah, I think people take beer a little too seriously at times. And I think that's where we struggle. Because if you pay attention to our social media, it's just me, and I'm not taking it serious. No. I think I make really serious beer that's fucking top notch, and I don't care what you say, who you are, like a 100% stand behind it. But I'm not gonna sit here and like pretend that it's not beer, and I don't want to just sit down and have a beer and have a few and have fun. Like that's why I do it. But I want to enjoy it too. And I think finding that balance has been tough, where our social media presence at times, I think people don't take us serious because of how I present. I'm kind of goofy at times.
Right.
But I mean, good, bad, it's still it's something I think we stand out for.
Yes.
And I mean, our
For
beers are esoteric. The brand is bizarre at times and slightly esoteric. We have a beer that has 3 names named after a sci-fi secondary character and 2 of the different actors who played it. So yeah. Like, I'm sorry, it's not quite straightforward. I didn't lay it out in a clear fashion.
I kind of think it does. And if you know what I would compliment you on, among many things, was as I'm familiar. I try to keep on top of stuff, but I'm not a sci-fi person. I'm not a fucking Comic-Con type. I worked at Comic-Con one time, and all I did was the lady I was working with, like the whole time I had to be, who's that? Why are they dressed like that? Who's like the whole time for like 4 days? I didn't know anything. So if I understand all the references from Lando to Billy D to Donald Glover without you having to explain it to me, I feel like people will get it. And it's nerdy and but it's clever. That's what I like the most.
I feel like it's nerdy, but totally, like, if you think about it, you'll get it.
Yes.
You know, like,
or if you're mildly attuned to pop culture.
Yeah, if you're just like, oh yeah, okay, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like so obscure that like only people who are deep into that subculture can understand it. And that's what I appreciated about it, because I'm not a punk dude, I'm not a sci-fi dude, which is the 2 main things that we just talked about.
Yeah.
But I understood you and the beer and the brewery. I understood it all. I was like, this is sick. It was, and I don't know, man. I feel like you're doing a great job of conveying that. And it's really just about, because you're probably in that stage of like hyper niche. And then if anybody else gets to experience, whether they go to the brewery or try the products, they're like, oh, this is fucking great. Whether they get it or not, they'll learn. They'll be able to get it. So it's like, that's why I'm busting your balls about the tap takeover and things like that could help to expose more people to the brand and get them to understand a few of these things, because it clicks, because it's intelligently presented. And you might think that you're just being silly. No. It resonated immediately with me personally. I feel like I'm the target market absolutely for the product, for the branding, and for all of that stuff. Not so much, but it didn't not only did it not turn me off, I was like, oh, this is sick, because it's so clever. And I like the cleverness of it, like the fact that you use the young stainless only beer and then called that Donald Glover. That's what, to me, what really clicked with all of this stuff. So I don't know, I feel like you need to give yourself more credit. I know you're a humble dude and you're sort of like, you know, you said mostly a one-man show, but I think that's what makes it special and what makes it super interesting for people to discover and be like, yo, this is just in our backyard, and you know, you can get it, you can order it anywhere in the province and all this type of stuff. It's very cool, man.
I appreciate that.
For real. And that's why we were so stoked to be able to do the collab, because it's like we both, like, you know, Nate being able to get Lando and stuff from Leapville is good timing, Nate. You know, nailed it. You know, because he was already had been familiar, and then you got me familiar personally once I was in the area very quickly. Like within a couple of months of living there, I was like, all right, I'm up on game now, let's go. And it's like, I don't know, I think you're just doing some really fun, interesting stuff, and also tapping into the local thing. That comes back to the Arabella Park conversation, and the people that you paid to be there that came and be like, hey Rob, what's up? Or they're happy to see you. It was like, this is sick. This is what beer is all about, is like, you know, being niche, being fun, and that hyper local thing. And I just feel like that's got to be the future of beer, particularly given all the stuff that's been happening recently. It depends when people are listening to this, but you know, this is early February 2025. Don't necessarily have to get into it, but a lot of shit's going down between the US and Canada and stuff like that. And you know, I feel like all that aside, even that it comes down to that localness and that local community hub, and tapping into that community to really get people behind it. And that's really going to be the future, I think, of craft beer, as opposed to maybe those larger brands that are shipping across countries and borders and such. It's you're on the right track. I love it, man. It's wicked.
Yeah, man.
Should we Lando that bad boy?
Let's do it.
We waited for you, Nate. We waited.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. And for those who are listening as opposed to watching, I'm ducking out every like half hour, 45 minutes, just because my son is feverish and having a restless sleep tonight. But I'm still here, and the gents are being very kind and not starting the next beers without me.
We would never dare. That would be rude and
Absolutely.
horrendous. Okay, so this is Lando AI. Is that correct?
AI.
And does the AI refer to our future overlords or to particular barrels?
This does refer to the blend made itself.
The blend itself. Okay.
So AI, anything Lando A falls into our neutral oak blends. And so we've had an A, B, AC, AD, but you name it down the line now. And I just did a K 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And the goal is to try and line these up in a, like, we're expressing the barrel and the culture that we've been keeping going since 2017. And with that means pretty good acidity on there, light funkiness in there, should be sweet tarts, light, slate notes in the background. The carb on this one is not super high. It could be a little higher. Actually, I'm surprised on my pour. I was like, well, but yeah, it is a barrel-aged blended sour saison. Comes in at 5.4%.
Let's flippin' go. These things are the plug, by the way, because I love that you got the cork. You got the cork and the bottle top. These automatic wine openers. Oh,
yeah.
Just
the last beer of the night, you're going to have to crack the top and then pull a cork out.
Well, obviously, we're making it happen. I like it. I like it. It's protecting the product, you know? Makes us feel fancy.
Do you not have any stemmed glassware in that Airbnb?
I think there's some wine glasses. I just got like a million of these like little tumblers. It's yeah. I probably should have had some stemmed ones for this. Well, look, Rob's got that one. I didn't really think about this as far as that. You're right.
I think we sent you a glass, Nate.
Oh, did you? Okay, that's awesome. I'm excited. Oh, I love that.
This glass is my Gueuze knockoff.
I love that.
Before COVID, my partner and I, Kat, we used to go to Brussels every summer, and we'd just go and drink lambic beers. And I loved the glasses, which were not quite this style, but very close to it. And there was nothing in North America that I could find that did this. And it's still one of the most annoying things. As a brewery, I started using this in 2019. And then all these other breweries started using this glass. Not all of them, but a bunch of them. And then the supplier ran out because all these other breweries started using this glass. And I was just like, that was the only goddamn beer glass I wanted. It was the only one. I would serve it all in there. And I just and I looked at getting it shipped in from Germany, I think. It's that weird thing of like, well, now it's just way too expensive. Like, they're not going to send you a pallet. You need to ship a full container. What am I going to do with a container of glassware like this? It's not gonna work.
And no,
what are you gonna do with like 5,000 glasses?
Yeah, like that's so many glasses. Like we ordered 1,000 glasses of our last run that went to the beer store or the beer towns. My apologies. With the like circle logo and all that. And even that, I was like, holy shit, this is a lot of glasses. There's so many glasses. Like, what are we going to do with all these? And they're not cheap.
No, I guess they're not.
No,
Gentlemen.
certainly not.
Cheers.
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 Get that in you.
Lando, I always prefer it at kind of a 10-12 C.
Okay.
In terms of temperature wise. Super cold is nice. AI is a little more on the acidic side, so being colder picks it up off the palate a little bit more. But like it opens up and gives that like sweet tart going.
Yeah.
Especially as it warms up. It's I should have looked up what the blend was for AI because I have it all listed and noted, but I did not before the podcast here, so I'm not gonna say what it is because I honestly don't remember. And having just done a bunch of Lando blends, I
don't recall.
Yeah,
I respect
exactly.
it.
And
I have
a little while ago.
Okay, so I have the Untapped thing here. I don't know if you did this or if someone else did, but it says this is the 9th batch of neutral oak Lando, blended and brewed to be our bastard interpretation of a Gueuze. Tropical melon dominates and finishes with slate. The acidity is clean and soft.
Yep.
Sounds accurate.
Sounds like something I would say.
Maybe you did this. I don't know. Makes sense.
Although I was not on Untapped, I probably did the initial right through.
And someone stole that and even put the proper the label and everything.
Mike, who works for us, does usually do our Untapped stuff. I am, as I had said earlier, I'm just not
into it.
On it in that way, and like take it or leave it in terms of good bad. I just like don't care enough on that side.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
I only like it like if I'm writing my little reviews to get the information that's on there. And
it's handy for that.
Yeah, that's really what, because sometimes the bottle, like say you got something like Lando, it might not have the specific blend because you've actually got people who don't know, like you actually like this is handwritten.
Yeah, like with a Sharpie on there.
Yeah.
Which makes it a little more special.
Lando's take a little bit to do. So the 10th anniversary in June, instead of corking, we're going to wax them. I had thought about doing cork cap wax. And then I was just like, how obnoxious
how
do I want to be? Where do I draw the line here?
Like how much do I want to piss people off opening this beer?
I don't get them anymore. When we first started doing it, people used to message me and be like, why the hell did you do this? And I'd be like, well, because that's what the beer needs. If we're going to like lay it down and let it go. If you're not aging it, the cork is not necessarily as important. But it is also a throw to Belgian Gueuze. Because when you go over there, how do you get your Cantillon Gueuze? It has a cork and cap. All of them, cork and cap. And that is why I decided to go this way. And this year is the first year in a little while that I haven't cork and capped Lando. Just because it was too much. So
right. I like the corking for beers like this because I think it helps with aging. Obviously, removes the oxygen issue essentially, and like you said, you put a 29 year, whatever, 29 300 whatever 54. It was days. Yeah. So I think that's like, like it's not the easiest thing to remove, but it's also not that serious either, and it kind of makes it feel like an experience. And I feel like that comes back to what we said earlier.
That was a part of it. This is a special beer. This isn't just a random beer you're cracking a can out of your fridge. Like, enjoy this.
Yeah,
think about it. Take some time.
It certainly is a special beer.
That was the point.
And even the corks too. I hope this comes into focus. But like even there we go. Even the corks have a short finger stamp on them.
This is dope.
Yeah,
I like that attention to detail, man. And this is that's the fun stuff about it. And another thing to note is that it's only 375 or 330.
375.
275, and that's the half. It just makes it so much easier to do
And
solo.
This is, we did all of these in the actual volume is 37.5 CL, which is also another throw to the Belgian Gueuze. We started listing all of our stuff in centiliters instead of milliliters, and just like trying to like guide people into like, again, you have to think and know, but that's why we've been doing these things. Whether people actually picked up on it, I never know. But yeah,
I did notice that
did.
as we were as we were going along, and it was in fact making me think of when we had Tamsy on back in December, and we were looking at Delirium, which of course had its volume in centiliters.
Yeah.
Very European centiliters.
Yeah.
So
It's cool, man. And it feels like, it just makes it feel like that experience that's very like, it's not like you're going to save it forever because it's not this big ass bottle. Like, it's like, oh, I can crash this easy. It's 5.4.
This is a great volume for for a beer like this.
Perfect.
And if this was another one that was in like a big 750, it would of course be a sharer. But with this one at 5.4%, it's a great one to be able to crush to yourself. And at this volume, it's perfect.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
I also want to say too, you read out what was written on Untapped there, but this is kind of funny here. What's written on the bottle? It says, "If you've ever met Rob, you know he is full to the brim with bullshit ideas and opinions. He wanted to write some nonsense about the pursuit of perfection and Lando being his quote concept album of a beer. Nobody wants to listen to him blather. Lando is a continuous project that is ever evolving. You truly belong here with us among the clouds."
Yeah.
I love that.
What's that quote from?
I totally forgot I wrote that.
That's cool.
I've been trying to take myself off the labels. I reference myself too much. And I'm like, all of my labels reference Rob. And I'm like, well, I mean, the brewery's called Short Finger.
Yeah, I mean, it's about you.
Yeah. So it's hard to get away from it.
And like you said, it's a kind of a one-man show aside from that. I don't think it's a bad thing. That's kind of the charm of it, no?
Yeah.
I think so.
I wrestle with it. You know what I mean? In that, like, too much, where the balance is, I wrestle with balance all the time.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like, it's not easy to sort of, balance all the different things, whether it's the making of the beer or the way that it's presented. All of these different elements, if you're doing basically all of it solo, it's inherently got your DNA across every part of it. So it isn't weird to have you being referenced on the label, you know?
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
But I did it a lot.
Right.
Which then it's just a weird ego trip.
Well, it doesn't come across ego, if that's helpful. Because it's still you doing it, right? Like, it is what it is. If you're the dude doing all the shit, then what are you supposed to do? Talk about somebody else?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is what it is.
Yeah,
if it's your ideas, your blends.
I think it's just cheeky and fun. I don't think there's anything like it doesn't come off as egotistical or anything like that. I think it's just fun.
Yeah, I think so too. Egotistical is the last thing. It's not like you have to be a real different person to have like a ego and be like a serious ego to the point where you're a dick or whatever. Like,
not to say that doesn't exist.
No, it exists. Look,
it
fucking
does.
Earth it exists. But I don't think this is a case of that. And
no, not at all.
Yeah, if you're a one-man show, I don't think ego really comes into it, because who else are you going to talk about? Like,
yeah,
that's all.
Yeah.
But if you've got a team of 100 people or 1,000 people and it's all about you, then maybe it's a different conversation. But yeah,
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm like, at times I'm like, I shouldn't have made everything in my brewery an inside joke, because like, it's that thing of like, you need to know me, you need to meet me to be like, oh, short finger,
Right.
like it's all this. And I have people at the tasting room all the time who will ask me about it, and then there's people who look at your hands instead of your eyes. I've noticed this more and more, and those people were like, oh, I see it, and then everybody else has to ask. I'm like, yeah. You're that awkward, slightly off socially person, so you look at people's hands instead of eyes.
Okay. A little bit
Yeah,
shy or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Which, surprise, surprise, we get a few of those awkwardly social people being a sci-fi punk brewery.
It could attract.
I can't
types.
imagine. I can't imagine that's
Yeah,
the type of crowd you draw.
that was built out of a homebrew shop.
Yeah, doesn't really get much more unique than that, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awesome. So then, is there anything? What else we want to touch on tonight? Because I feel like we really got into a lot of what's been happening in the last few years and sort of recaptured a lot of the essence of what it is that you do, man. I think it's really cool, and the Pulp stuff, the Lando stuff in depth, the collab, like. What else do people need to know about? Or is there anything else you're working on that people should, be aware of? Obviously, the anniversary's in June, right?
Anniversaries in June. On that side, like Lando Day, I had played around with like, maybe I'll do 10 Lando blends for 10 years. And I was like, that seems like a fucking wild amount of work. Like, not that like I couldn't do it, but also a wild amount of work that wouldn't necessarily make anything better. The thought of doing something just because like, well, we did this, but like, I'm like, no, I don't think that's the right move. So I decided we'll do the same thing. I'm going to do 3 Lando blends. I'm going to do the first raspberry blend of Lando. It's sitting on fruit right now. I'm hoping to pull it off in the next little bit. So like, there's a few things I'm like, okay, we'll do something a little different. I've always steered away from framboise. It's just too easy.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's that weird thing with sour beer. I'm like, I don't want to just take the easy route out. But coming up in the next month, I think one of the truly coolest beers we do is Hack. I grow my own tobacco, cure it, brew barley wine, and then age that barley wine on this tobacco.
That's
and
it
is sitting on the tobacco right now, and it's got another 2 weeks. Then I'll pull it off that, and we'll get it all canned up. And it's a beer that I stole it from a brewery in France. Like when I was in Belgium one year, I can't remember what the town was. We ended up in a beer bar, and I had a completely still barley wine aged on tobacco. And I'm not a barley wine guy. I'm not a big beer guy. And I was like, this is awesome. This is so cool.
Fucking amazing.
Everything about this works. And ever since then, I was like, I'm going to make a beer like this. And I wish I had taken a photo. So I don't even know what the brewery was. It was one of those things. It was just like, I love this. And I've never looked it up. I know you're like Googling it right now.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah. And
see if I can find it.
I think it was somewhere in France. And that's where Hack came out of. probably the worst. Again, like where I always trip myself, I think Hack is the best name for this barley wine aged on tobacco, but it also throws people off. I think the original photo that I put out about it was a bunch of like cigarette butts, like ashed out beside the can with, and I was just like, and I put it on social media, and after the fact, I was like, oh, people didn't respond well to that, but I liked it.
I get it.
That's
like
hilarious.
it's like I was like, well, this is what the beer is.
Yeah.
And it's not an ashtray or anything like that, but like it's a tobacco barley wine, and it's super cool. I don't think anyone in Ontario, I don't want to like, please don't quote me because I'm not super good about like double checking what everybody else is doing.
No, I've never heard like of anyone else. I've never heard of anyone else doing that. I think you'd probably be. I know you're not going to, but I think you'd probably be pretty safe in saying you're the only, if not one of the only ones doing that.
Because
that sounds dope.
I grow the tobacco in my backyard and on our tasting room patio.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
And because when I reached out, I called down to a tobacco grower in Simcoe, and they essentially laughed at me. They're like, this is a controlled substance. And I was like, well, I also produce a controlled substance. So can we not like
exchange?
And they're like, no,
substances?
Absolutely not. We will not sell you tobacco leaves. Because I put the whole leaf after cured right into the tank.
That's pretty sick. I had that one. That was you mentioned Toronto Brewing before. So then when they had their Geary Street, the manager there, Justin.
Justin's
he manages
good stuff.
Yeah, he's a good dude. So he was like, "You need to try this," and then we got them on the pod, and that was one of the beers that was part of the pod. And I was like, "Yo," I was a little newer to barley wine at the time. I was like, "This is fucking great. It was fantastic." It was one of the first beers I had from you, I think, actually. Which is a pretty interesting way to be introduced to what
that
you
is
do.
a funny introduction to
tobacco barley wine.
But it also is exactly what I want from Short Finger. Of like, you had a really different beer than you've had from anyone else, but it was still really good and in a style I might not do all that often. Which
makes it more fun. And more, and that, once again, that's kind of what beer is about. Sometimes it's one-off experiences that you might get again, but there won't be the exact same thing again.
Yep.
It's
see, I very much am a barley wine guy, and now I really want to try that.
When does that drop?
Hopefully in March. Yeah.
Oh shit! All right.
Do you guys like Super? Do you guys know Super Troopers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the next beer that I'm also really excited about, and I just brewed it today, is called Littering And.
Literally and?
No. Yeah.
Littering And. And it is it's a hazy IPA with pot terps in it, which I haven't done yet. So this will be the initial go on it, but I think I'm gonna release it with like Super Troopers screening in the tasting room, and so I
that's dope.
I think we've got a couple fun things coming down the line that I am pretty I am quite happy about the Super Troopers name, mostly because I love Super Troopers.
Great. That's great.
Yeah.
That's 6. You got that. You got the barley wine. You got Lando Day coming up in June, and you got the Short Can Summer Festival in August?
Every summer in August. Yeah.
Anything?
And you got BAOS anniversary in April/May.
Yeah, in May. We got shit. We got
you got some shit going on, bro. Fuck, kitchen is popping out here.
Yeah.
And you just had the beer. One of the biggest beer sellout. That's like hour and a half to sell out a beer.
Yeah, that was
think about it in this climate. Think about that just for a second. Like, isn't that crazy? In this climate, that's still happening.
Yeah, that still happens. Isn't that wild?
It's so wild.
That's harkening back to like 2017, 2018 days.
Yes, lineup times. Like, that is exciting as fuck, dude. And I think
when when Barncat did like their first canning release kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's very cool, and it's cool that you got all of this stuff going on, and then still being able to pull that off whilst being the most niche brewery going. So, I don't know, man. I think you should be really proud. It's pretty sick. It's obviously moving the needle, and the thing about business owners is that your head is down. You're in the game. It's like sometimes hard to acknowledge the successes and the wins because you're too busy worrying about the next shit. Because that's the nature of everything, and I don't know. This is hopefully gives you a little bit of like, you know, wind in the sails as such of like, you know, fuck man, like we're doing all right. We're doing all right in this weird climate with beer and all of this stuff. To be able to do all that, you know, it's very cool. It's very, very cool, and it's I don't know. I feel like you bring in a lot of fun to beer that maybe has been missing again. Yeah,
I do try.
Well, I think you're nailing it, dude. And I think it's awesome. And this has been a real fun, like this lineup tonight, just looking at these cans right here. Like, this is sick. Like, from, you know, like total low ABV stuff to some pale ales to golden sours with peaches to some crispies and now to Lando. Like, I feel like this is giving a real good picture of what it is that you do. This is well curated.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I feel like we really nailed this. Anything else you need people to know? What else? No, we got it all.
That's all.
It's a beautiful thing.
We did
it, boys.
Did it?
We did it. And what a time it was.
There you go. There's the tagline right there. We did it.
We did it. I'll write that one down for the thing. We did it. You know what? We got to keep putting these down because you never know. You honestly, like, this is actually quite lengthy. The amount of
we got a long list here. This was not the one and done like right off the rip as we were joking about.
As we were, I'm like, oof. It's I don't even know where we're going to go with this. I mean,
we're spoiled for choice here.
Zesticles is pretty tempting. I'm not gonna lie.
Maybe where it needs to go, but
it might be.
It's your podcast. I want to beer that. That's all.
I understand. I appreciate that. We'll get the best possible one that we think represented it well, and that's going to get some attention for people to make sure they listen to it because this was a super fun convo. Rob, honestly, man, appreciate you immensely, man. Thank you for taking the time for hanging out and you know, having this conversation with us and sharing these beers. It's super fun and
yeah, man, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, you're champ. Where can everybody? Oh man, absolutely anytime. Where can everybody find? Where's that noise coming from? Every one of us are standing still.
I don't know where that noise is. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think it's me.
No, it's not Nate. Oh, it's kind of gone away. It's okay. We're wrapping it up. It's not a big deal.
My speakerphone.
Oh, it could be that real quick. I think it might be, but that's okay. Yeah. We're wrapping up. We'll talk off air anyway.
Okay.
In the meantime, Rob, where can everybody find Shortfinger online and in real life?
Uh-oh. Oh boy, what a time to go in the blink.
What a time. We needed him to tell us how we're going to know where to find them online.
Now it's a big mystery. Maybe we'll never be able to find them.
Never be able to find Shortfinger at Shortfinger Beer or Brewing or whatever it might be. Let me check in the meantime. Maybe
there's two
do that
exist now because they were one of the ones that got hit by that by that Instagram bullshit.
You know what I've been doing? Honestly, whenever I'm tagging, I think it's Shortfinger Brewing. It's Shortfinger. No.
Yes.
Shortfinger Brewing.
When we did the episode with Tamsi, I accidentally tagged the backup account.
So what I've been doing is tagging both just to be safe.
Oh, that's smart.
Because if I'm not sure, I'm just like, oh, I can't unmute his mic as well. Okay. So Rob might have disappeared. We'll give him a sec.
Oh, I did.
Whoop, there he is.
I hear him.
We hear you, but we don't see you.
Do you want me to mute it again? That'd be
Well,
better.
no, don't no. Keep it unmuted and show us your pretty face, and then we'll wrap this up. We'll bring this bad boy home.
All right. Yeah. Short Finger beer is not the one,
Not the one. Short
which is
Finger
where
Brewing.
you were, Nathan, and I was randomly on there, and was like, "Well, who's tagging?" And yeah, that shit sucked. Instagram shutting down our.
Oh my god, how fucking stupid was that?
But I took a break and I like to take a break and I don't take it serious. My partner Kat has deemed the past like month or two of like Rob's phase of not giving a fuck about social media. She's like, your posts are wild for a business. I'm like, yeah, here I am being me, and like I can only be me.
Here's Rob.
And that's all you can do. So the real account is Short Finger Brewing on Instagram, and it's is it shortfingerbrewing.com? I guess so, right? Shortfingerbrewing.com.
Oh boy, now we've lost the audio too.
It's okay. We can take care of it. We can promote anybody, Nate.
No, that's true.
Sorted.
That's true.
Get it fucking sorted, bro.
Let's tell the people where to find Short Finger Brewing.
Yes, so it's the actual address is shit. How do I? Oh, I saw.
Oh, it's before. On the can. It's on the can.
Oh, there you go. Read it. 20 Hurst Avenue.
Yeah, Kitchener. 20 Hurst Avenue, Kitchener, Ontario.
There you go. So check them out. Give them a follow. Get down there if you can. Order their beers if you can. Ask your favorite store to get them in if you can. It's impeccable stuff. So I think we'll wrap this up and then we'll see if we can fetch some Rob off air. And look, guys, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, Nathaniel.
Ding.
So you know when the new about. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, at Nathan Does Beer. Check out the long form audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good shit. We got bangers coming. We got bangers in the system already. It's a beautiful thing. We got our BAOS 10th anniversary in April and May. There's going to be 40 plus drops, including coffee beans, beers from all over Ontario, Quebec, New York, and Texas. We're going to start talking about it a lot now. Fuck it, we're going in. Event details to be announced.
Fucking stuff coming.
It's been a lot of work for the both of us, so we're going pretty hard. Yeah, we're going in and balls to the wall with this shit. It's a big event, lots of collabs that you can get hold of. Some fantastic, like the best of the best, you name it, the best of the best are involved. It's we're very blessed to be able to do this. So very excited. Event's going to be fire. More information to come in the next few weeks, end of Feb, early March, depends on when you listen to this, but we'll be launching then. Make sure you check out Short Finger everywhere. And folks, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.